Chapter 1623. In the blink of an eye he killed a person, the second head in charge, and the other expert, who was entangled by the poison dragon in the distance, also trembled when they saw this scene. The two of them were furious. Although the three of them were subordinates, they had been good friends for many years. And now, he was actually killed right before their very eyes. How could they tolerate this? With a furious roar, the two of them unleashed their yuan qi in a frenzy. It was as if a violent gust of wind was blowing. The surrounding trees were all uprooted. They formed a strong force and smashed towards the poison dragon. Bam! The poison dragon was hit. He was in so much pain that he cried out. However, the poison dragon opened his mouth and turned into a poison arrow. The person in front of him couldn't dodge it in time. He was in such a sorry state. However, the two of them couldn't break through Aotian's blockade. Finally, Li Zongjiu arrived and landed on Aotian's head. At the same time, the sword in his hand gradually released a terrifying aura. A man and a dragon cooperated with each other. After a series of battles, the second head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance couldn't take it anymore. He turned around and ran. He ran far away. Boom! The person who was left behind was drenched in the poison dragon's poison. He looked like a pile of mud. It didn't last long. The second person was poisoned to death. However, there were some wounds on Aotian's body. There were even some wounds that looked a little ghastly on their own. With the wounds on my body, I need at least 1,000 or 2,000 soul beans to heal my wounds. Aotian opened his dragon claws in front of Li Zongjiu. The battle was for Li Zongjiu. Now that he was injured, it was normal for him to ask for some compensation. Only after the compensation could he heal his wounds. After all, the healing effect of soul beans was very good. Li Zongjiu wasn't stingy in this aspect. He gave the poison dragon 1,500 soul beans. The guy smiled and shrunk back. Li Zongjiu did not chase after the second-in-command of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance who had escaped. Firstly, they couldn't catch up. Secondly, after testing the waters, these people already knew that Li Zongjiu was not to be trifled with. The most important thing was to make these people more obedient in the future. After knowing how powerful Li Zongjiu was, he had to think twice before making a move. For them, this was equivalent to stepping on a nail. Naturally, there was nothing they could do about it. After all, Li Zongjiu had also taken a fancy to what they wanted. In the end, they had no choice but to end up like this. Hong Long saw this scene from afar. Naturally, he was quite clear in his heart. Li Zongjiu was really too powerful. Almost no one could resist Li Zongjiu. The rat-headed demon was severely injured. Li Zongjiu did not kill it directly. Instead, he left it where it was. At least it could help attract the attention of the other experts from the Heavenly Fiend Alliance. One had to know that there were hundreds of people from the Heavenly Fiend Alliance in the valley. If these people gathered together, even Li Zongjiu and the poison dragon Aotian would have to leave quickly. Only by running far away could they ensure their own safety. There was no doubt about this. It was very dangerous to deal with so many people. They were outnumbered. Even if the opponent released the lightning talisman, if Li Zongjiu got too close, there was a chance that he would be killed by the thunder talisman of destiny. Li Zongjiu had no doubt about this. Although he was confident, he was not arrogant. In some situations where he couldn't win, he had to keep a low profile. However, he could not be complacent just because he had won 2 rounds. If that happened, the outcome would be very painful. Li Zongjiu and Hong Long continued to search for another place. At this place, they directly used a drop of blood to refine the indefinite hoop in their hands. After refining the indefinite hoop, it naturally could not run away. It could not be taken away by others. Even Li Zongjiu could use the indefinite hoop earlier. After the indefinite hoop, and Li Zongjiu established a connection. Li Zongjiu also felt that there seemed to be something extra in his mind. Something else. It was the indefinite hoop that appeared directly in his mind space. At the same time, Li Zongjiu's mind power was constantly being absorbed by the indefinite hoop. Immediately, Li Zongjiu was surprised to find that his mind power was also condensing and pouring into the indefinite hoop. It seemed like it was trying to condense. However, this power was not successful. It was only a small part. After all, Li Zongjiu's mind power was not strong enough. Only when the mind power in it was condensed to a certain extent could it give birth to the power of an avatar. So far, there was no way to condense the power of the Great Path avatar. Besides that, the indefinite hoop in his hand could carry a murderous aura, which was obviously targeted at the power of these demons. This kind of power could be integrated into the sword qi at Li Zongjiu's command. It was very convenient. The indefinite hoop directly turned into a small ring and fell on Li Zongjiu's finger. This is the indefinite hoop. It can actually increase the mind power. Li Zongjiu also noticed this. In the past, when Li Zongjiu used the white god Fu, it could also increase his mind power. However, it could not be used now. The power of the white god Fu could not drive him, and there was no special effect. As for the indefinite hoop, if necessary, it could be added to the mind power and be used directly. It could increase Li Zongjiu's mind power to a certain extent. Hong Long was also very emotional. He did not expect this thing to fall into Li Zongjiu's hands. It was very unexpected. Moreover, it was snatched from the Heavenly Fiend Alliance. This was no different from snatching food from the tiger's mouth. Only Li Zongjiu had such courage and strength. Although the Thousand Moon Sect Master and the others wanted to, they were not strong enough. In fact, if Li Zongjiu had not attacked and killed the third head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance, they would not have been able to escape. Qian Yu and the others might not have been able to escape. After using the Lightning Talisman of Destiny and paying such a huge price, how could he let them leave so easily? Let's go. Li Zongjiu only used half a day to refine it. Then, he looked at the sky and saw that it had turned dark again. Where are we going? Hong Long asked. Normally, after a person obtained such a treasure, they would find a place to hide until their strength increased. Then, they would reappear in the Jianghu to intimidate the heroes, or make a fortune in secret. If he were to walk around with this treasure, he would only invite death upon himself. The mission that we accepted before? I am very curious as to what the rewards of the City Lord's mansion will be. Li Zongjiu would not let go of any opportunity to increase his strength. Moreover, he already had a basic understanding of the surrounding situation. The mission of killing the demons was not over yet. Therefore, Li Zongjiu had to stay and continue killing demons. Ah, do you still kill demons? In Hong Long's opinion, even if he killed 100 or 1,000 demons, it would not be comparable to the indefinite hoop in his hands. Chapter 1624. Li Zongjiu and Hong Long entered the forest once again. Since this doppelganger ring can imitate anything, I wonder if it can imitate the unparalleled sword. Li Zongjiu thought to himself. Just as this thought popped up in his mind, the doppelganger ring in his hand turned into the unparalleled sword with a swoosh. In terms of its aura, it could even pass off as the real thing. It looked no different from the real unparalleled sword. It's really powerful. Li Zongjiu tried to swing the unparalleled sword that was transformed by the doppelganger ring in his hand. Immediately, the sword qi was released continuously. The sword in his hand released a slight fluctuation. It was unusually powerful. This thing is really powerful. The doppelganger ring was at least an immortal weapon. Li Zongjiu thought to himself. Due to the help of the Black Sea Lord, the unparalleled sword had a heart of the Azure Sea. Therefore, the unparalleled sword itself had been upgraded. It could be considered as a half-step immortal weapon now. It could only wait until Huo Wushuang's strength broke through to the heaven realm. Naturally, it could become an immortal weapon. Similarly, if the unparalleled sword broke through to the immortal weapon realm, Huo Wushuang would naturally break through to the heaven realm. The two complemented each other. If Li Zongjiu had the ability to upgrade the unparalleled sword, Huo Wushuang might be able to appear here. He did not expect the doppelganger ring to be able to imitate the unparalleled sword, a half-step immortal weapon. This was much more convenient. After all, the quality of the doppelganger ring was above that of the unparalleled sword. If the unparalleled sword was damaged in a battle, it would be an extremely dangerous thing. Huo Wushuang would definitely be severely injured. Nightfall. The groups of demons seemed to be continuing their operations. These fiendish demons appeared in groups. There was a huge number of them, and their strength was shocking. In addition, the Heavenly Fiend Alliance had retreated during this period of time. Therefore, some of the freelance hunters found an opportunity to come and fight against the demons. After all, if they could kill these Gui demons, they would be rewarded by the city lord. This was also very tempting for them. In addition, according to the rumors, there was a demon with the treasure of the underground palace. Although the first one might have fallen into the hands of the Sky Fiend Alliance, who could guarantee that there would not be a second one? Since they were in the big world, nothing was impossible. Immediately, these people quickly showed themselves. At night, they hurriedly fought with the demons. Killing demons, Li Zhongjiu and Hong Long were also rapidly shuttling through the forest. There were still quite a number of demons who weren't weak. However, they couldn't withstand too many moves from Li Zhongjiu. By now Li Zhongjiu had gotten used to fighting at this level. After all, he had even fought with an innate level 7 expert. What else was there to say? As long as Li Zhongjiu did not encounter a level 8 innate, or even a level 9 innate, he would be able to kill them quickly. Just as Li Zhongjiu was doing his best to slay the fiendish demons, something happened. The only second leader of the Sky Fiend Alliance who managed to escape did not make it back to Red Spirit City alive. On the way back, he met a small hunting team who had left the city to hunt. When they saw the severely injured second leader of the Sky Fiend Alliance, they couldn't believe it. How could there be such a good thing? The Sky Fiend Alliance had many enemies. However, the reason why these leaders were still alive was because they were powerful. Now that he was severely injured, there were no experts around him to protect him. He was easily killed by this group of hunters. The second leader of the Sky Fiend Alliance would never have imagined that he would be ambushed on the way back. He was killed mercilessly just like that. This was the cruel rule of the big world. Anyone could easily disappear from this world. No matter what your identity or position was, as long as there was a chance, you would be killed. Anyone could die. Only after one had truly grasped the power could one ensure one's own life. However, the actions of this group of people also allowed Li Zhongjiu to be in a safer environment. After all, Li Zhongjiu had already shown his face in front of the second leader of the Sky Fiend Alliance. When the second leader returned, he would definitely post Li Zhongjiu's portrait everywhere and use the power of the Sky Fiend Alliance to find Li Zhongjiu. After all, Li Zhongjiu had the indefinite ring. This was true. If the Sky Fiend Alliance could not get it, they would definitely not let it fall into Li Zhongjiu's hands so easily. However, he did not expect to be killed on the way back. Even if he wanted to go back and report, it was impossible. The pitiful second leader of the Sky Fiend Alliance was a well-known figure in Red Spirit City. However, he did not expect to end up in such a state. As for the Thousand Moon Sect Master, who had secretly returned to the city, naturally, she would not expose Li Zhongjiu's secret so easily. After all, Li Zhongjiu could be said to have saved her twice. An enemy's enemy was also a friend. Perhaps Li Zhongjiu would become a secret weapon used by the Thousand Moon Sect to deal with the Sky Fiend Alliance. This time, it could be said that she had missed out on this treasure by a long shot. The Thousand Moon Sect Master could sense that this item was probably not suitable for her. If she continued to force it, there would definitely be problems. This was not because she was afraid. Instead, it had a lot to do with the great path that the Thousand Moon Sect Master cultivated. After experiencing a few crises, she understood that this item was not something that she could possess. If she forced it, it would only bring disaster. In the forest, Li Zhongjiu used the rune net in his hand to kill close to 30 demons. At this time, he had already encountered an extremely elite team. This team's strength was not inferior at all. They were all innate level 6 experts. Clearly, they were very experienced in hunting demons. We are very interested in the sword in your hand. Leave the sword behind, and you can leave. The 5 of them surrounded Li Zhongjiu. This was because the unparalleled sword in Li Zhongjiu's hand was transformed from the indefinite ring. Moreover, it had the additional attribute of slaying demons. Therefore, with one strike of the sword, the fighting strength of these demons would rapidly decrease. It was precisely because they had their eyes on the sword in Li Zhongjiu's hand that this team of experts was prepared to snatch the sword away from him. They were experts in slaying demons. Now that they saw the weapon in Li Zhongjio's hand, they wanted to obtain it even more. You want my sword? Li Zhongjio looked at the people in front of him. Then he said slowly, you'd better think carefully. If you leave now, it's still not too late. Even Li Zhongjio did not know where these people's confidence came from. At the same time, the group of people in front of him was extremely surprised by Li Zhongjio's confidence. Looks like you're very confident. I've resumed the update. Sorry for the long wait. I'll update properly. Chapter 1625. There was obvious mockery in the eyes of the 5 people. They looked at Li Zhongjio and Hong Long. It was like a rabbit surrounded by a group of eagles. There was nowhere to run. It was better to be obedient. At least he could stay here happily. Hong Long knew Li Zhongjio's strength. Therefore, in his heart, he was not worried about not being able to escape at all. However, these people's strength was obviously not weak, so he also needed to protect himself. Otherwise, if Li Zhongjio was not careful and did not see him, he would be in trouble. After all, he was not as strong as Li Zhongjio. Since you don't want to call him out, there's no point in talking. Let's do it. At the command, everyone started to move. In an instant, the 5 people's attacks were like a thunderbolt. They directly rushed towards Li Zhongjio. Li Zhongjio also rushed towards them with the unparalleled sword, which was transformed from the amorphous ring. 1 against 5. Soon, these people realized that Li Zhongjio's strength was above theirs. If this continued, they would be defeated by Li Zhongjio. Release the tiger tally, the leader of the other party said. 2 of them took out a pair of tokens and put them together. Instantly, the tokens in their hands released light. A strong wave was released from the tiger tally. All of a sudden, Li Zhongjio felt a very familiar fluctuation. Then, he saw a fallen tribe's tiger-headed warlord appear in front of him. It seemed to be summoned from the tiger tally. Boom! The tiger-headed warlord landed on the ground and immediately released a terrifying wave. It held a pair of war hammers in both hands. Li Zhongjio was completely shocked. Logically speaking, the fallen clan should not have been wiped out. Even their own beast god temple should have been destroyed by the ape clan's experts. But now there was another powerhouse from the fallen race. Li Zhongjio was also very familiar with his aura. However, Li Zhongjio soon felt relieved. There was nothing strange about this. Naturally, there were many things that could happen here. Even many things that were impossible could happen here. Therefore, it was not strange to see a tiger-head general of the fallen race in front of him. In comparison, the tiger-headed general in front of him seemed to have a purer bloodline. I didn't expect to meet an old rival. It does feel a little surreal. Li Zhongjio chuckled. What old opponent? This is a fallen tiger talisman. It can summon a fallen general. With this, it seems like he's already at innate level 8. Hong Long could not believe that Li Zhongjio could still laugh. What was the situation in front of him? He had to kill this guy quickly. I heard that the warlord summoned by the fallen tiger talisman will not rest until he's dead. He can even chase you to the ends of the earth. If he doesn't kill you, he'll definitely not rest. Hong Long could not help but say. Leave it to me. Li Zhongjio sneered. He could say that he had fought with the fallen race before. His opponent's fallen battle chi happened to be restrained by his chaotic energy. If it were someone else, they might really be beaten down by the fallen clan's tiger-headed warlord. But when facing Li Zhongjio, these guys had no chance. The fallen battle chi of my tiger-headed warlord is enough to restrain any origin energy. Kid die. The team in front of him seemed to be very confident in their tiger-headed warlord. Li Zhongjio used his mind to turn the indefinite ring into a ring. After putting it on, his figure flashed and he quickly charged towards the tiger-headed warlord. When this figure appeared, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. The tiger-headed warlord also charged towards him. Its aura shook the sky. The power that appeared on its arms seemed to be able to easily overturn a mountain. The tiger-headed warlord roared and smashed its twin hammers towards Li Zhongjio. Li Zhongjio also raised his hands abruptly. Boom! His hands grasped the falling hammers tightly. What? That kid can actually withstand the hammers? When the pair of hammers fell, the force behind them was at least tens of millions of tons. Even a level 9 innate realm expert might not be able to withstand it. The tiger-headed warlord was their trump card. Unexpectedly, it did not seem to be able to affect Li Zongjio at all. Li Zongjio's chaotic power erupted. Then he directly threw the hammers to the side. His fist was already smashing towards the tiger-headed warlord's head. Boom! The tiger-headed warlord was pushed back more than 10 steps. His footsteps suddenly stopped. Then, the tiger-headed warlord's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Although he was sealed in the tiger tally, he still had his own intelligence and thoughts. It was just that this thought was not so strong. As a member of the fallen clan, it was very humiliating to be pushed back by a human's fist. After feeling humiliated, the tiger-headed warlord's combat power instantly surged. A series of heavy punches rained down on Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio also used his body movement to dodge some of the attacks. However, when some attacks came, Li Zongjio also used his own strength to resist them. He even chose to compete with his opponent in terms of strength. The battle between the two sides could be said to be quite heroic. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the sky was falling and the earth was rending. At this moment, the 5 people who had released the tiger tally were completely stunned when they saw this scene. They stared at each other with eyes wide open. The shock in their eyes was simply indescribable. It turned out that when they had fought Li Zongjio just now, it was entirely because the latter had shown mercy. Otherwise, with such combat power, they could have been taken down easily. They might have even been beaten to death. At this moment, they even wanted to summon the tiger-headed warlord back and escape as soon as possible. Now that the tiger-headed warlord could not take down Li Zongjio, if Li Zongjio freed himself and defeated the tiger-headed warlord, they would have to deal with him next. Faced with Li Zongjio's terrifying combat power, how long could they resist him? Bam! Li Zongjio's small and skinny body immediately knocked the tiger-headed warlord to the ground. At the same time, his punch also caused the tiger-headed warlord to explode instantly. The tiger-headed warlord turned into a wave of depraved power and returned to the tiger tally. This was considered a defeat. If they wanted to reactivate the tiger-headed warlord, they would have to inject a large amount of soul beans into the tiger tally. However, this was no longer a matter of the tiger-headed warlord, but of their own lives. Chapter 1626. The tiger-headed warlord that they had been relying on, the fierce general of the fallen clan, had been destroyed by Li Zongjio with a single punch. Therefore, the 5 of them had already realized how powerful Li Zongjio was. This tiger tally is not bad. It can be exchanged for a life. Li Zongjio said indifferently. He waved his hand. 2 unparalleled swords appeared. The unparalleled swords instantly condensed and moved. The threatening power released from the unparalleled swords was also quite strong. They were directly aimed at the 5 people in front of him. Judging from the strength that Li Zongjio had shown just now, it was indeed not difficult for him to kill the 5 of them. At this moment, Li Zongjio's words were already very obvious. If they used the tiger tally in their hands to exchange for a life, only one of them would not die. However, the rest of them could still be killed by Li Zongjio. Therefore, these people all became nervous. They looked at each other. One of them threw the tiger tally in his hand out. Li Zongjio caught the tiger tally in his hand. He felt the power that permeated from it. It was indeed the aura of the fallen clan. The familiar fallen clan obviously existed in the macro world as well. Even the history of the Shengwu continent was not worth mentioning in the macro world. The 2 were not on the same level at all. It was precisely because of his familiarity with the fallen clan and the tiger-headed warlord summoned by the tiger tally that Li Zongjio also kept it with him. It should be something that the other party used to save his life. Now, in order to save his life, he had no choice but to hand it over. This was equivalent to taking a gamble. If Li Zongjio took all their weapons and then came to kill them, they would accept it. They only hoped that Li Zongjio would keep his promise. You can go. Li Zongjio pointed at the person who threw the tiger tally and said, We have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Lord, please let us go. This tiger tally is a token of respect. That person did not leave. Instead, he looked at Li Zongjio. At least there was still room for negotiation. Therefore, he was also thinking if he could fight for a chance. Saving his life was the most important thing. Sure, you can live as long as you take out something to pay for your life, Li Zongjie said. If he killed these people, he would only be able to obtain a few soul beans. Everything they had on them would disappear. Sometimes some strong-willed people would rather die than hand over their things. Most of them were afraid of death. If there was a chance, they would rather Li Zongjie spare their lives. They exchanged glances with each other. It seemed to be trying to escape. However, no one could guarantee that Li Zongjie didn't have the strength to kill them all. Although it was possible that he wouldn't kill them, it was also very likely that he would. This made them very worried. Even if there was a slight possibility, they didn't dare to take the risk. If they weren't careful, they would die immediately. Who would be willing to take this risk? It was better to hand over their things obediently and beg Li Zongjie to spare their lives. As long as it wasn't a bloodthirsty person, such experts would let them live. This was because even if you were strong today, you might meet someone stronger than you in the future. No matter who was here, they were not free to do as they wished. Therefore, if they left a way out today, it might be helpful tomorrow. However, it was hard to say what kind of person they would meet. It all depended on luck. At least to the 5 of them, Li Zongjie was a rational person. I'm willing to hand over all the demons I've killed to Lord, in exchange for the lives of the remaining 4. The leader plucked up his courage and said, he even wanted to make such a deal because he wanted to take a gamble. This thing can be transferred? Li Zongjie asked curiously. The person he was asking was Hong Long, who was beside him. Yes, it can be transferred. As long as the other party's signatories agree, it can be transferred. Hong Long explained. How many did you kill? Li Zongjie asked. If you only killed 1 or 2, why would I make a deal with you? 58. The leader of the group said. He didn't try to hide anything. After all, this thing couldn't be deceived. Li Zongjie was slightly surprised. How could they kill so many? He only killed slightly more than 30. These people actually killed more than 50. However, when there were more people, teamwork was indeed more advantageous. Li Zongjie needed to kill them one by one. However, this small team could kill a few in an instant. Indeed, they needed a team to be able to do it so easily. Li Zongjie was also thinking that he should recruit some subordinates. Otherwise, how long would it take for him to earn enough soul beans to increase his strength if he was alone? 58. I'll allow you to change 3 people. Pick one of them to die. Li Zongjie said. Originally, attacking Li Zongjie would lead to certain death. Even Li Zongjie could complete it. If he didn't care about these things and directly killed you, what could you do? Although Li Zongjie wouldn't get anything, you would lose everything. It was obvious who would be at a disadvantage. Moreover, according to what Li Zongjie said, they did not have a choice either. They weren't even allowed to refuse. Otherwise, only death awaited them. The other party was also very clear. Although Li Zongjie looked amiable, just from the aura when he beat up the tiger-headed warlord, they knew that Li Zongjie was definitely not a kind person. He wasn't someone that ordinary people could withstand. He could easily crush your head. Sir, please give us a chance. Let us gather 80 demons and offer them to you. The other party gritted his teeth and said, this was a very excessive request. It was even equivalent to challenging Li Zongjie's bottom line. Li Zongjie clearly didn't look like a fool. If he gave them a chance to subdue demons, wouldn't that be giving them a chance to escape? Oh, sure, leave your soul imprints here. Gather 80 demons and I'll release all of you. Li Zongjie said. Collecting soul imprints was something that Li Zongjie could do easily. Their expressions changed slightly. If they gave their soul imprints to Li Zongjie, it was equivalent to becoming Li Zongjie's slave, unless they knew a secret technique that allowed them to directly cut off their soul. In that case, it was equivalent to sacrificing their cultivation to achieve such a goal. This was also a very good method for them. After all, they still had a way to survive. Coincidentally, there were some among them who knew this secret technique, which allowed them to part with their souls. But it was a pity. This was a very good idea. If Li Zongjie didn't have the soul-splitting ring, he really wouldn't have been able to discover it. But now that these people had handed over their soul imprints, Li Zongjie had placed them on the soul-splitting ring. In an instant, These people's souls were all bound. Unless you completely erased your own soul. In that way, they would be able to gain freedom and not be controlled by Li Zhongjie. But this was equivalent to death. There was nothing to say. Chapter 1627. Their original plan was to sacrifice a little of their soul energy to deceive Li Zhongjie. However, this method did not seem to work. After their soul imprints were taken away by Li Zhongjie, they seemed to have been placed in an extremely mysterious place. This thing used a powerful force to connect the souls of the 5 of them through the soul bridge. In an instant this force was born. The expressions of the 5 changed. Oh no, our souls. Oh, this Dharma treasure has such an effect. Li Zhongjie was also surprised to discover that this soul distraction ring seemed to have an effect. In order to refine one's own great Tao incarnation, one did not need to cultivate slowly. Instead, one needed to directly seize the souls of others and integrate them into the soul distraction ring. Through the soul distraction ring's refinement, it would condense into Li Zhongjie's soul energy. Li Zhongjie could not use this soul energy. However, he could use this soul energy to directly condense a great Tao incarnation. This method could save Li Zhongjie a lot of trouble. Li Zhongjie also liked this function very much. Looks like your little tricks are not working. I'll give you 3 days. If you can't complete it in 3 days, I'll directly take your souls. Li Zhongjie sneered. What were these people thinking? How could he not know that these tricks were left behind by him in the past? Young people nowadays had not improved at all. The 5 of them were sullen, because they could already feel that their soul energy had been completely controlled by Li Zhongjie. This should not have happened. It was all because Li Zhongjie had such a Dharma treasure in his hands. Therefore, these people had no way to resist. They had fallen into Li Zhongjie's trap. Li Zhongjie and Hong Long left immediately. There were still more than 20 fiendish demons left. He could just leave them all to these people. Towards the end, the number of demonic beasts decreased. It would take a lot of time and effort to snatch these demonic beasts away. Li Zhongjie and Yi Zichen left immediately. However, there were 5 people in the remaining elite team. They all looked at each other in dismay. He has a magical treasure in his hand that completely sealed our soul power. The malnourished man among the 5 said. He really couldn't be blamed for something like this. Who would have thought that Li Zhongjie would possess such a treasure? What should we do now? What else can we do? We've lost this time. However, this person doesn't look like someone who would burn the bridge after crossing the river. Let's gather the demons first. When it came to this, everyone couldn't help but sigh. This was truly the legendary case of losing the bride and losing the army after the hatchet. This kind of heaven-defying loss wasn't something that just anyone could do. Li Zhongjie took Hong Long and casually found a relatively remote and quiet place to rest for a while. Just these few days of hunting fiendish demons had already made Li Zhongjie feel a little tired. This place wasn't as good as the Shengwu continent. The consumption of energy was also completely different. The consumption was even greater than in the lower realms. If we want to create a guild, do we have to follow some rules and restrictions? Li Zhongjie asked. Hong Long nodded. Of course. If you want to obtain a guild creation token, you have to go through the Tower of Trials. There's a chance you'll get a guild creation token. Of course, you can also buy it with soul beans. However, I heard that a guild creation token costs at least 50,000 soul beans. 50,000 soul beans. Li Zhongjie sucked in a breath of cold air. He could only exchange for a few thousand soul beans for a single pill. A mere guild creation token cost 50,000 soul beans. It was truly too expensive. Not only do you need a guild creation token, but you also need a place to establish your guild. Once you have a guild creation token, you can recruit guild members and collect guild fees from them. As long as your guild develops well, you'll be able to make a lot of money. Li Zhongjie finally understood. With a guild creation token, one wouldn't have to worry about food or clothing. In fact, one wouldn't even need to earn money. As long as the guild members were all present, or even more so, one would be able to collect a considerable amount of guild fees. Just these soul beans would be enough to feed one. This was a chance to quickly make a fortune. Therefore, Li Zhongjie was very interested. Then if I get a guild creation token, Can I sell it? Li Zhongjiu suddenly thought. Of course you can. Many people are buying it, Hong Long said. Hong Long said. Obviously, using the guild building token to generate profits was a very good method. One thing that could be guaranteed was that after you had established a guild, you would be able to obtain the guild building token. Once you established a guild creation token, the guild members would definitely not betray you. They wouldn't stab you in the back. Because of these rules, in this great world where there was no trust at all, a guild creation token was extremely important. The possibility of obtaining a guild creation token from the Tower of Trials was simply too low. Therefore, Li Zhongjiu needed to use other methods to obtain a guild creation token. If he sold the distraction ring, he would probably be able to get 10 or so guild creation tokens. However, Li Zhongjiu wouldn't do such a stupid thing. The stray soul ring could create a great Dao incarnation for Li Zhongjiu. With this Dao avatar, it could immediately give Li Zhongjiu an extra life. Who wouldn't want such a benefit? In fact, he even felt like he was cultivating twice as fast. If he placed this Dao avatar in a spiritual pool to cultivate, when he succeeded in cultivating, he could merge the two into one. This would allow Li Zhongjiu to obtain great power. Originally, this power could only be obtained after reaching the Lord of Heaven realm. However, Li Zhongjiu had obtained it, and obtained this power in advance. This was a good opportunity. Li Zhongjiu would definitely not let it go. Just as Li Zhongjiu and Hong Long were resting in the mountains, suddenly, two figures landed in front of them. They seemed to be fighting, one chasing and the other escaping. Where are you running to, you little devil? How dare you kill my guild members? I will definitely kill you. The one being chased was a girl in black. Hearing the words of the person behind her, the girl in black turned around and sneered. A group of lustful people. So what if I killed them? What can you do? The girl in black said arrogantly. Li Zhongjiu looked at the scene in front of him and thought of a plan. Can I just snatch the guild creation token? Chapter 1628. Could they snatch it? Speaking of this question, there were indeed people who had studied it. Generally speaking, they could not snatch it. This was because the guild creation token could only be used once. Since the faction had already been established, it meant that the guild creation token had already been used. In theory, it should have been used up. However, the daily maintenance of the faction required the guild creation token. Of course, the token itself would not be called the guild creation token, but something else. But there was a way. After establishing the faction leader would be replaced. In a faction, the faction leader usually had the highest authority. Basically, whatever he said was law. Therefore, it was difficult for the people in the faction to usurp the position. Unless they worked with outsiders to kill the faction leader, then the second faction leader, who was the deputy faction leader, would automatically become the official faction leader. After becoming the official faction leader, the position of the faction leader would be clear. There was also a situation where an outsider could directly kill the guild master and force him to hand over the position of guild master. In this case, the outsider could directly own a guild and wouldn't need a guild establishment token or something like that. They just needed to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. Of course, this was a good idea. Being able to become the leader of a gang, he definitely did not have an undeserved reputation. If you could directly defeat the faction leader and force him to hand over the position of the faction leader to you, why would you need to do this? It was not difficult to get a guild creation token. Therefore, in general, this kind of behavior was relatively rare. If you had no other way, you could just take care of the faction leader immediately. The entire gang will come to deal with you. When the time comes, you'll know what it means to have no place for me in this vast world. After listening to Hong Long's explanation, Li Zhongjiu nodded. It did make some sense when he put it that way. Originally, he wanted to simply snatch the guild creation token from the faction and use it directly. This would save him a lot of trouble. For Li Zhongjiu to defeat the faction and take the position of the faction leader, it would be a very complicated matter. There were too many uncertainties. Therefore, Li Zhongjiu thought that it would be better to just buy a piece. It would save him a lot of trouble. You call yourself the leader of the Green Gang with that level of cultivation? You can't even catch me. The black-clothed demoness in front also turned around and mocked the people behind her. But Li Zongjiao? He saw it. The woman in black was going to be in big trouble. The other party had already set up a trap and was just waiting for the woman in black to jump into it. However, Li Zongjiao heard something that piqued his interest. How strong is this Qing gang? Li Zongjiao asked. Hong Long seemed to be searching his mind for any information regarding the Qing gang. Soon, he recalled everything that was related to it. Qing gang is a newly established gang. It's ranked in the top 50, and it doesn't seem to have a lot of manpower. Hong Long said. Then let's start with the Qing gang. They're all here anyway. Li Zongjiao thought. Then he followed them carefully. He no longer cared about the matter of hunting magical beasts. In any case, there was an elite team that hunted magical beasts for him. Naturally, he was very relaxed. When the time came, he could directly obtain the number of magical beasts killed by these people, and easily obtain the rewards. As for sympathizing with them, they should spare some? There was no need for that. Although they wanted to rob Li Zongjiao, after having been out for so long, Li Zongjiao had never been at a disadvantage. It was already a great blessing to be able to keep their lives. What else did they want? The woman in black suddenly realized that something was wrong. There seemed to be some strange elemental energy fluctuations around her. All of a sudden, the black-clothed woman crashed into a wall of elemental energy and bounced back. Not good. The woman in black's eyes suddenly revealed a trace of horror. She saw 3 figures appear in front of her, blocking her way. At the same time, a few extremely hidden nets appeared in the void. Sky net. The woman in black's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. The cost of making this sky net was not cheap. The other party must have wanted to take her down by making this thing. Moreover, it took a certain amount of time to set up this sky net. It could only be said that the other party had already set up this trap and was waiting for her to come. That's right, this is the sky net. Your freedom movement is very powerful, but in front of this sky net, you have no chance to escape. In fact, the leader of the Qing gang had already had a chance to catch up with the woman in black. But even if he caught up with her, it would be very difficult to catch her with such a skillful freedom movement. Instead, she would seize the opportunity to escape again. Therefore, he had been waiting here for an opportunity. Through the gang's order, he had sent out the message in advance, so that they could be prepared first. Now he had finally forced the other party into this trap. You guys actually used such a trick on a weak woman like me. The woman in black was obviously very angry, but at the same time, she was also looking for an opportunity to escape. But now that she was surrounded by 4 people, it was harder to escape than climbing the sky. You demoness, you killed more than 20 people of the Qing gang, and you have the nerve to call yourself a weak woman. If you obediently hand over the Freedom Movement Secret Manual, I can consider sparing your life, the leader of the Qing gang said. Of course, this was nonsense. Once you handed over the Freedom Movement Secret Manual, you would have no value to speak of. If the other party wanted to kill you, it would be a piece of cake. Even a child would not be fooled. However, the woman in black had a pitiful look in her eyes. She looked at the leader of the Qing gang in front of her. Is what you said true? My carefree body movement technique is in this spiritual pearl. Release the inescapable net first, then I will give you the spiritual pearl. The woman in black said. After releasing the sky net, she would be able to use her Freedom Movement Secret Manual more easily. She would be able to move freely between heaven and earth in an instant. Then it would be harder to catch her. But the other party was not a fool. He would not let her go just because she said so. Of course, he would not let her go. The leader of the Qing gang shook his head. Give me the Freedom Movement Secret Manual first. After I see it clearly, I will let you go. I swear in the name of the leader of the Qing gang. You should believe me now, right? Otherwise, you can only take your Freedom Movement Secret Manual with you and go to Wuxia. Chapter 1629. The words of the leader of the Qing gang were 30% incitement and 70% threat. He was clearly telling her that she had no choice. If she dared to say anything, There would be nothing left to say. He would just kill her. She was talking so much nonsense. She definitely didn't have any good intentions. I'll definitely kill you. Otherwise, if I let you go, you will definitely become a threat in the future. The best way to deal with you is to get rid of you right now. Alright then. I hope you can keep your promise. The girl in black said weakly. At the same time, she threw the spiritual pearl in her hand to the leader of the Qin gang. The leader of the Qin gang was already full of smiles. Once he got his hands on this thing, he would definitely gain great strength. The carefree body technique. In this world, it could at least be ranked in the top 100 body techniques. Who wouldn't want such a top-notch body technique? Whether it was killing or escaping, it was second to none. Everyone wanted to get it. Originally, the leader of the Qin gang didn't have a share of such a treasure. However, he was lucky. Who would have thought that he would meet this girl in the wilderness? Since she had mastered the legendary carefree body technique, of course, he had to take this girl down. The latter happened to be looking for the demon group. However, it seemed that she didn't live in the main city of Red Soul. Otherwise, she definitely wouldn't have dared to kill so many people of the Qin gang. Just as he was about to grab the spiritual bead, the spiritual bead suddenly shook and turned into 3 rays of light. With the appearance of these 3 rays of light, a terrifying explosion instantly attacked. When this wave of spiritual energy hit him, he didn't even have time to react. It directly blasted the leader of the Qin gang away. Leader. The subordinates saw that their leader was sneakily attacked by this demoness with a pearl. It's the Ice Blast Pearl. His subordinates also exclaimed one after another. The leader of the Qin gang was instantly hit by the power of frost released by the Ice Blast Pearl. His whole body was frozen. Seeing this, the girl in black instantly turned into a shadow. Her figure quickly turned in the air and rushed towards the 3 people of the Qin gang in the blink of an eye. The 3 people of the Qin gang opened the sky net in their hands. In an instant, they fell towards the girl in black. The surrounding space seemed to have been restricted as well. At the same time, a strong sense of oppression assaulted her, making it difficult for the black-clothed girl to resist this power. Xiaoyao body art. The black-clothed young lady's body seemed to have transformed into thousands of clones. She continued to attack the terrifying net around her. The energy fluctuations in the surroundings suddenly became chaotic. The spatial pressure released by the heavens net was actually shattered by the girl's kick. The inescapable net could form an extremely terrifying pressure that could turn the space around you into a prison. That way, it would be difficult for you to escape from it. In the end, it will directly crush you. However, before this kind of power formed, if they could find the weakest point of the net and rush out, they would at least have a chance of survival. Now the black-clothed girl's thousands of figures were attacking precisely for this opportunity. When this move appeared, it was filled with countless variations. Boom! Finally she found the weakest point. Immediately, the black-clothed girl launched an attack at the weakest point of the net. This was because if she did not hurry, the leader of the Qin gang would break through the seal of the Ice Blast Pearl. At that time, with the leader of the Qin gang attacking, it would be a very dangerous matter. She had to dodge. Bang! The weakest point of the inescapable net was kicked away by the black-clothed girl in a row. Finally she rushed out. Seeing this, the 3 Qin gang experts' faces changed. They did not expect the girl to be so strong. This Xiaoyao body art was really too powerful. Not only did it have such speed, but it also had such a powerful force. It was no wonder that this Xiaoyao body art was ranked in the top 100 in the macro world. In terms of body art, it was definitely very powerful. If it weren't for the fact that the latter's cultivation was only at innate level 7, he would have killed all of them if he had displayed such strength. The black-clothed girl seemed to have consumed a lot of energy. She hurriedly swallowed an elixir and quickly fled into the distance. Bang! At this moment, the leader of the Qin gang finally broke free from the thick layer of frost. Set up the array and kill her. Don't leave her alive. At this moment, the leader of the Qin gang understood that it was almost impossible to get the girl to hand over the item. Since that was the case, he might as well kill her directly to avoid any more trouble. He did not care at all whether he could get the Xiaoyao body art or not. It was his fortune to get this item, but it was his fate to lose it. It was better than this demoness coming to find him in the future, and then killing everyone in the Qin gang. Therefore this order was quite clear. They had to take the girl's life. The black-clothed girl knew that things were not good. Once these people had the intention to kill, it would be really difficult to escape. Boom! 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 3 of the Green Gang's experts unleashed their sword qi, instantly surrounding the ladder. The black-clothed girl did not have any chance to escape. She did not have enough strength. After all, the 3 Qin Gang experts were all at level 7 innate realm. The leader of the Qin Gang was at level 8 innate realm. The difference in strength was too great. It was hard to resist. The black-clothed girl was hit by a ray of sword qi. She could no longer run, and fell to the ground with a boom. It was too horrible to look at. Fortunately, she was wearing an inner armor with good defense. Otherwise, the sword qi just now would have pierced through the black-clothed girl's stomach. Li Zongjio, who was far away, naturally heard these people's conversation. At the same time, he also knew that the black-clothed girl seemed to have something amazing in her hands. That was why she was met with such an unexpected disaster. He was also very curious as to what kind of treasure it was. The black-clothed girl was once again surrounded by a few rays of sword qi. Her body was also severely injured. It was hard to escape. Only at this moment did the black-clothed girl's heart finally give up. This time, she had really gone too far. Azure Sky Fang's sword qi. The leader of the Qin Gang had extremely strong combat strength. Otherwise, he would not have become the leader of the Qin Gang. Just the gang establishment token alone was worth a lot of money. Therefore, to be able to establish a gang, his strength was naturally not simple. It was naturally difficult for the black-clothed girl to withstand the sword qi. But just as the sword was about to fall, a figure suddenly rushed out and blocked the sword qi. Only a back view could be seen. Holding a sword with one hand, it blocked all of the sword qi from earlier. Chapter 1630. Li Zongjio held his sword with one hand and smashed the opponent's sword qi to pieces. He stood in front of the girl in black. So handsome. When the black-clothed girl saw Li Zongjio in front of her, her eyes suddenly lit up. It was mainly because Li Zongjio had appeared and saved her. Otherwise, the black-clothed girl wouldn't have cared about Li Zongjio. She treated him as a passerby. Who are you? How dare you work for the Qin Gang? When the other party saw Li Zongjio appear, and another Qing Yaojin, they immediately confronted Li Zongjio and Hong Long. Originally, a black-clothed girl was already enough to make them flustered. They did not expect another top expert to appear. They could not help but be vigilant. Hong Long did not need to appear. He could just hide in the distance. Even if he came out, he would only be courting death. Sorry to disturb you. Either you hand over your gang or you die. Li Zongjio held his sword with one hand and pointed it at the leader of the Qin Gang. Immediately, the leader of the Qin Gang was stunned. Then he burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, did I hear wrong? Are you asking me to hand over the position of the leader? The Qin Gang's eyes were filled with mockery. They were mocking Li Zongjio for overestimating himself. If the position of the leader could be taken down so easily, he would not need to be the leader. You can take care of the other 3? Li Zongjio said to the girl in black behind him. The girl in black was stunned. Ah, you can't handle it alone? You want me to take action? The girl in black did not expect Li Zongjio to not have many trump cards. Did he want her to fight with him? Since he wanted to be the hero to save the damsel in distress, he should have just made a move and killed them all. Now he even needed her to make a move. It was simply too embarrassing. She did not even want to talk to Li Zongjio. However, there was nothing he could do about it. Luckily, there was such a mysterious helper. If he refused to help, he would definitely be hunted down by the Qin Gang. I can only hold on for 15 minutes. It's impossible to kill them, but I still have the ability to escape. The black-clothed girl said. Li Zongjio also admired the black-clothed girl's face. It was as if it was a matter of course for him to take action now. But since there was something to talk about, it was fine. Then let's switch. You block this one, and I'll kill the other 3. Li Zongjio said. The black-clothed girl thought for a while and finally nodded. Her free movement technique was easier to deal with when facing a person. At the very least, she still had a great chance. It would be troublesome if there were too many of them. The two of you are truly condescending. When the four members of the Qing gang saw Li Zongjio and the black-clothed girl discussing how to deal with them in front of them, they were shocked. They did not take them seriously at all. Obviously, this Li Zongjio was too arrogant. I'll let you have a taste of my green sky fong sword. The three of you form a battle formation and skin that brat for me. The leader of the Qing gang said. Since they were so arrogant, he would let them have a good look at the true strength of the Qing gang. They definitely lived up to their reputation. In the future, the Qing gang would definitely become one of the top 10 gangs in the Scarlet Spirit City. Yes, leader. The three of them were the backbone of the Qing gang. Naturally, they would listen to the leader's orders. After the leader gave the order, they did not hesitate and resolutely carried it out. The three of them directly rushed towards Li Zongjio. However, Li Zongjio also rushed towards the three of them. The three of them were all innate level 7, about the same strength as Li Zongjio. Now that they exploded, they formed 3 terrifying auras and surrounded Li Zongjio. Sword formation. In addition, when the members of the gang fought together, they would be in a state of fighting strength. Therefore, at this moment, when the three of them joined forces, they were at least equivalent to an innate level 9 expert. Even if it was an innate level 9, they would be able to temporarily suppress them. Li Zongjio did not hesitate and summoned the tiger-headed war general that he had repaired earlier. Li Zongjio's thinking was different from the others. Others might feel sorry for their soul beings and would not be willing to waste them to repair the tiger talisman. In fact, he would only release the tiger tally at the very last moment. Li Zongjio's thinking was naturally different. If he did not use such a good thing, wouldn't it be a waste? Perhaps this tiger-headed war general could bring him more benefits and allow Li Zongjio to recoup his losses in a shorter period of time. Soul beans could be earned back after spending them. However, if this person was gone, it would really be gone. Moreover, these people would run away. When the tiger-headed war general appeared, the atmosphere of the scene changed instantly. The atmosphere was extremely subtle. The 3 experts of the Qing gang were stunned when they saw this. However, the tiger-headed war general was so fierce that it did not even consider why it was here. Its mind was only filled with Li Zongjio's order to tear the people in front of it to shreds. Immediately, the tiger-headed war general's figure rushed out. It blocked 2 of the 3. Li Zongjio rode on his sword. The real unparalleled sword attacked continuously in the form of a sword. Li Zongjio grasped the sword formed by the indefinite ring in his hand and exploded with extremely fierce sword chi. The Qing gang's master was forced to retreat. Originally, the black-clothed girl had thought that it would be better to just run away from the beginning. After all, she was facing the Qing gang's leader alone. If she went all out and paid a small price, she would be able to escape. After all, she did not know if Li Zongjio was really that fierce to be able to block so many people. If this guy was bragging, she would be in trouble. In the end, she would not be able to escape. However, now it seemed that Li Zongjio's strength was not bad. This guy that he had suddenly summoned seemed to be able to fight. She did not have a good impression of the Qing gang. Now that she had the chance, of course, she would teach them a lesson. Hehe, you're in for a bad time. My helper is a first-class fighter in Crimson Soul City. Once he starts, he won't stop until he kills all the enemies. The black-clothed girl continued to add oil to the fire. By distracting the Qing gang's leader, she would have more opportunities to delay more time, so that Li Zongjio could get rid of the 3 people quickly. Then, they would join forces to deal with the Qing gang's leader? This problem would be easier to solve. Do you think you can live until then? Fong Sword. Chapter 1631. He raised his hand and a green sword appeared in his hand, accompanied by a murderous aura. You actually have a demonic weapon. When the black-clothed woman saw the cyan sword, her eyes flashed with a trace of shock. Mainly because of the fang sword. The terrifying aura released from it was a demonic weapon. Immediately, the woman in black's eyes were filled with fear. A demonic weapon was similar to an immortal weapon, But in some aspects, a demonic weapon was more powerful and harder to resist. Hey, this guy has a demonic weapon. Hurry up and kill them to help me. The woman in black was naturally frightened. She didn't expect this guy to hide so well. If he was hit by the magic weapon, the injury would probably be irreparable. At that time, he would directly die. No one wanted to die just like that. Facing the leader of Qing Gang who had a demonic weapon, the woman in black didn't dare to be careless anymore. He displayed his free and unfettered body art. She reached a very mysterious state. Everywhere in the sky, there were shadows of the ladder. But in reality, there was not a single real body among these shadows. This was the special ability of the Xiaoyao body art. Otherwise, how could she do Xiaojia? Rely on this move to roam the Jianghu for so long. Li Zhongjiu took the time to look back. This so-called demonic weapon was indeed emitting a terrifying aura. It looked like a good thing. Li Zhongjiu was also thinking in his heart that he had to get his hands on this good item. Even if he didn't use it, he could sell it in the future and exchange it for soul beans. This would be a good income. How dare you be distracted when fighting with me? The Qing Gang's master was instantly displeased. You arrogant fellow. How dare you disregard my existence like this? One must know that he also wanted to save face. Who knew that Li Zhongjiu dared to ignore him? He was a level 7 and 8. But Li Zhongjiu really didn't care about him. Unparalleled sword. The unparalleled sword, which had been hiding its power all this time, suddenly exploded with a terrifying power. It directly blasted the person in front of him, causing the latter to retreat. Even the latter was astonished by the sudden increase in power. He had not expected such a situation to occur. He was a little flustered. Li Zhongjiu also took advantage of the situation and threw out the sword in his hand. At the same time, he suddenly closed in on his opponent and threw a punch. It directly broke the latter's elemental energy defense with ease. Boom! When the elemental energy defense was shattered, the two peerless swords chopped off the elemental energy from the elemental energy defense. Shwa shwa! The sword chi landed. This person didn't even have time to react when his arms were chopped off. When he did, his mouth was wide open in shock. No! My hand! My hand! With a panicked roar, Li Zhongjiu punched again, and the latter's head was directly smashed. This person didn't seem to have any treasures in his hands. Therefore, this punch completely ended the latter's life. Li Zhongjiu was better at close combat. Now that he had used his full strength, it could be said that he thought highly of him. Using a sword was just a cover for Li Zhongjiu's strength. It was to make it convenient for him to launch a surprise attack at such a time. After all, in such an unfamiliar environment, it would be too stupid to explode his full strength. He waved his hand and collected all the soul beans that the latter had dropped. At the same time, he quickly rushed toward the other two. The tiger-headed warrior was indeed a brave warrior of the fallen tribe. His strength was several times stronger than the termite demon queen. If Li Zhongjiu had met this guy back then, the entire sacred martial realm would have been destroyed. If an expert like the Black Sea Lord refused to take action, it would be troublesome. The entire world would be killed by the fallen tribe. Of course, if the fallen tribe had such strength, they wouldn't have been hunted down by the ape tribe. Speaking of the Black Sea Lord, Li Zhongjiu even suspected that the Black Sea Lord had come to this great world. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult to break through to the celestial realm in the lower realm. In fact, it was simply impossible because of the age of the medicinal ingredients. There was simply no way to have enough medicinal ingredients to concoct a better medicinal pill. There was also no stronger cultivation system. Even the inheritance of the demon clan might not have the ability to break through to the celestial realm. At most, it would be lingering in the innate realm. It was extremely difficult to break through to the celestial realm. Even Li Zhongjiu hadn't found a way to break through to the celestial realm after coming to this great world. He could only take one step at a time. He had to take the position of the faction leader first. Li Zhongjiu quickly displayed his strength again and killed the remaining two. Once again, he received close to 30 soul beans. However, it seemed that the tiger-headed warlord had overexerted himself. Li Zhongjiu didn't hesitate to put the soul beans he had just received into the tiger tally. Immediately, the tiger-headed warlord's strength was restored. It was more useful than a human. Why do I feel that this guy can still be upgraded? Li Zhongjiu looked at the tiger-headed warlord, who was full of fighting spirit, and suddenly had a premonition. He could clearly feel it. It was obvious that this wasn't the tiger-headed warlord's limit. If there were enough soul beans, it could help the tiger-headed warlord continue to improve its strength. It could at least reach the peak of the innate realm. This made Li Zhongjiu an unexpected discovery and gain. The group of people from before probably didn't have enough soul beans to improve the tiger-headed warlord's strength. However, Li Zhongjiu wouldn't waste such a good opportunity. However, the most important thing now was to get rid of the Green Gang's faction leader. He saw that 3 of his faction's core members had been killed. Even the Green Gang's faction leader couldn't take down the woman in black. At this moment, Li Zhongjiu had freed up his hands. This made the Green Gang's faction leader stunned. Immediately, a trace of anxiety flashed across his eyes. He wanted to escape at this moment. Unfortunately, it was too late. Li Zhongjiu commanded the 2 swords and the tiger-headed warlord to attack. He didn't even talk nonsense. He attacked as soon as he got close. Boom! Powerful origin energy fluctuations pierced through the entire area. Fang Ghost. A ray of light appeared around the Green Gang's faction leader. Then he threw out the sword in his hand. Instantly, the sword in his hand transformed into a fanged ghost. It had a green face and fangs. It was quite ferocious. Li Zhongjiu directly plucked the aura from the fanged ghost. Then it merged into the indefinite ring. Change. The unparalleled sword in his hand instantly transformed into a fanged sword. Chapter 1632. In Li Zhongjiu's hand, there was actually an identical fanged sword, and it could exert the same effect. It had the same momentum. Li Zhongjiu was just giving it a try. After all, the Fang sword seemed to be a real demonic weapon. It was on the same level as an immortal weapon. Even the unparalleled sword was only a half-step immortal weapon, not a real immortal weapon. Now Li Zhongjiu easily copied the Fang sword. Not only was Li Zhongjiu surprised, but the leader of the Qing gang also widened his eyes when he saw this scene. How can it be? How can you have the Fang sword? The leader of the Qing gang exclaimed. However, Fang Ghost was able to tell the difference between the real deal and the fake one. He immediately reached out and slapped Li Zhongjiu. The girl in black was also quite surprised when she saw the Fang sword in Li Zhongjiu's hand. She didn't expect Li Zhongjiu to have so many tricks up his sleeve. After all, Li Zhongjiu's tricks were endless and quite powerful. Li Zhongjiu also activated the Fang sword in his hand, and the Fang ghost in it burst out instantly. The 2 Fang ghosts collided directly. With a boom, the aura vibrated and spread out continuously. The Fang ghosts kept colliding with each other. The movement of the battle was also earth-shattering. It has almost reached the celestial realm. This thing is so powerful. When he saw the leader of the Qing gang use the Fang sword, he thought that the power of the Fang sword was just ordinary. But now, after the fanged ghost's strength erupted, they could clearly feel how terrifying the fanged sword's strength was. Obviously, the leader of the Qing gang didn't have enough strength to release the full power of the Fang sword. That was why such a situation happened. When the 2 Fang ghosts fought, Li Zhongjiu didn't waste any time and opportunity. He directly attacked the leader of the Qing gang with the tiger-headed warrior. After all, the indefinite ring was a duplicate of the same item, so it was hard to say when the other party would beat it to the point where it would be exposed. Therefore, at this time, he must seize the opportunity to kill the person in front of him. The tiger-headed warrior swung the twin hammers in his hands. He smashed them toward the leader of the Qing gang's chest. Dong! With a loud bang, even the power that spread out from the collision had a kind of power that could destroy the sky, and it continued to vibrate continuously. The leader of the Qing gang retreated rapidly, was directly knocked back by the opponent. Green Mountain Tactics, fighting under the clear sky, magic arsenal. The leader of the Qing gang saw the strength of Li Zhongjiu and the tiger-headed warrior. In addition, there was a girl in black who was eyeing him covetously. If he didn't use some magic treasures, there was no way he could defeat Li Zhongjiu. At the same time, the leader of the Qing gang had already felt the pressure from Li Zongjio. Immediately, a series of green beans flew out from the latter's sleeves. These green beans bounced a few times in the air, and then directly transformed into the appearance of the leader of the Qin gang, and appeared in front of Li Zongjio and the others. He directly activated the magic art, and blasted toward Li Zongjio. Put his palm! Li Zongjio struck out with his palm, and the power in front of him exploded one after another. This leader of the Qin gang has a lot of treasures in his hands. Li Zongjio couldn't help but exclaim. Even the leader of the Qin gang was so difficult to deal with. If it was the leader of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance, he would be even more difficult to deal with. Therefore, Li Zongjio couldn't be too careless. Otherwise, he might really be taken care of by the other party. The girl in black also joined the battle. She kicked the figures formed by the green beans into pieces. Bang! 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 I'll deal with these doppelgangers. You go and deal with him. The girl in black said. Li Zongjio didn't hesitate at all. Under such circumstances, he directly left the battle circle and charged toward the leader of the Qin gang again. The unparalleled sword in his hand, surrounded by the power of ice and fire, easily pushed back the figures in front of him. Once again, he broke through the defense of the doppelgangers and came in front of the leader of the Qin gang. What? Seeing Li Zongjio come out, the leader of the Qin gang's face suddenly changed. The joint attack with the tiger-headed warrior seriously injured the leader of the Qin gang directly. The leader of the Qin gang fell from the sky to the ground. Li Zongjio also fell from the sky. With one punch, he broke one of the leader of the Qin gang's legs. The unparalleled sword was placed on the leader's neck. The cold, bone-piercing power of the sword made the leader of the Qin gang's face become filled with fear. You, who exactly are you? Such a top expert suddenly appeared. This person's strength was definitely not simple. How could it be such a coincidence that he met such an expert? He couldn't believe that this was a coincidence. Someone must have deliberately arranged this. Otherwise, how could such a situation occur? I'll give you 10 breaths of time to consider. Either you hand over the leader's position or you die. Li Zongjio said indifferently. There was also a clear iciness in his eyes. He was clearly saying that he would not show any mercy to them. If he didn't agree, he wouldn't waste any more time and would kill him. Let's talk nicely. I can give you whatever you want. I can give you 100,000 soul beans as long as you give me time. The leader of the Qin gang said hurriedly. However, Li Zongjio didn't seem to be moved. He just stared at the leader of the Qin gang with a cold gaze. Do you know who I am? Commander Mishur of the Red Soul City is my uncle. In a moment of desperation, the leader of the Qin gang wanted to reveal his identity. At the very least, he wanted to use this to threaten the latter. If he took the leader's position, his uncle would definitely come looking for him. After all, he wouldn't have such a good chance to escape. It wasn't something that he could escape from just because he wanted to. As a commander of the Red Soul City, he had absolute strength. This wasn't a joke. He could easily deal with him. 3, 2. Li Zongjio raised the unparalleled sword in his hand. He was about to descend and chop off the leader's head. He didn't care about the consequences. As long as he got the leader's position, he could talk about the rest later. Commanders were amazing. If they dared to block Li Zongjio's path, they would be killed in one strike. What could you do? You were just so arrogant. There was no need to care too much about other things. If other factors could easily influence your decision, it would be difficult for you to succeed. In that case, it will be difficult for you to succeed. You won't even be able to do the simplest thing well. Therefore, if you wanted to do something well, you had to be completely focused and single-minded. Stop, I'll hand it over. Chapter 1633. The unparalleled sword was already pressed against the man's windpipe, and the surface of his skin was already cut open. In this way, the man in front of him felt a real threat. An aura of death involuntarily emerged from his body. If he had not spoken in time, Li Zongjio would have stabbed him with his sword. There was no room for regret. He broke out in a cold sweat. In this macro world, anything could happen and happen. Therefore, he did not doubt that Li Zongjio would kill him. After all, Li Zongjio did not look like he was afraid. Finally, the leader of the Qin gang took out a gang token. He erased the mark on it and handed it to Li Zongjio. I'll give you the token and you'll spare my life. The guild building token. This was the legendary guild building token. Hong Long had described to Li Zongjio what the guild building token looked like. Li Zongjio received the guild establishment token without any expression on his face. He didn't seem to be very excited either. It was his emotionless expression that made Hong Long feel uneasy. He could not even imagine the background of Li Zongjio in front of him. He could only blame himself for being unlucky. He did not bring more people with him when he came out. Usually, after becoming the leader, he would hide in his gang's base to cultivate. After all, if there was any fighting, he only needed to send his subordinates out. He could hide safely in the city, cultivate and gain benefits. Why not do such a good thing? However, he had just established the Qin gang not long ago. When he heard that there were benefits to be gained, he came over. He did not expect to be killed by the girl in black. This made him very unhappy. Later, he found that the girl in black had the legendary carefree body movement. He was even more greedy and wanted to obtain the free and unfettered movement technique. The final outcome was obvious. It just so happened that it fell into Li Zongjio's hands. Even if Li Zongjio was being polite, he wouldn't let you off so easily, so he snatched your guild establishment token. When Li Zongjio engraved his mind imprint on it, some additional information suddenly appeared in his mind. He was even able to see it in an extremely specific manner. Looking at the additional information in front of his eyes, gang members, gang activity. In addition to the contribution points of the gang members, there was also a column for hatred points. In this hatred point, there was also some recorded information. They were all enemies who had killed members of the Qin gang. The black-clothed girl was among them. Li Zongjio was supposed to be one too. However, now that Li Zongjio had become the leader of the Qin gang, the hatred from before had disappeared. Du Xiaojia was now ranked first. That was the black-clothed woman in front of him. This thing is quite useful. The existence of the guild establishment token really surprised Li Zongjio. He even understood and felt clearly that this was the power of the macro world. It was the creativity of a heavenly emperor tier powerhouse. It was so terrifying. All these things appeared because of the will of the heavenly emperor tier powerhouse. Anything could appear this way just because he wanted it to be this way. It was unbelievable. Everything was just the will of the great emperor of the Xiantian sect. Okay, I'm a man of my word, Li Zongjio said. The latter used his own essence energy to reattach that broken leg of his. Li Zongjio got his guild establishment token as he wished. He took over the entire Qin gang. Young man, don't blame me for not reminding you. The establishment of this gang is not my power. You've provoked a group of people you can't afford to provoke. After the leader of the Qin gang finished speaking, he immediately left. He summoned his Fang sword over. At the same time, his figure quickly disappeared into the sky. If you continue to stay here, Li Zongjio might suddenly have a murderous intent and kill you directly. What can you do? Let him go just like that, the black-clothed woman said angrily. She just watched him escape. Thinking of how arrogant he was before, the black-clothed woman was quite angry. I've already gotten what I wanted, Li Zongjio said. He was not a homicidal maniac. Sometimes, when he was unhappy with you, he might kill you directly. But sometimes, as long as he achieved his goal, there was no need to kill so many people. When your strength reached a certain level, you would have no enemies. Just like Li Zongjio, if he returned to the Shengwu continent, he would not have any enemies to speak of. In this macro world, enemies would always exist. You might even be targeted without even knowing it. Moreover, after killing you, soul beans would appear. These soul beans were the most direct benefits. Although it was a bit wasteful, some people liked it this way. And some people were forced to do it. Anything could happen. Li Zongjio did it according to his heart. If it was necessary, he would kill the other party. But Du Xiaojia was a bit unhappy. After all, this person wanted to kill her just now. If she had not been lucky, she would not have had the chance to escape. Of course, it was also because Li Zongjio had helped. If Li Zongjio had not helped her, she would have been in a lot of trouble. You actually robbed a gang just like that? Amazing. Isn't the gang fun? Do you want me to be the deputy leader? Du Xiaojia saw that Li Zongjie was a bit interesting. Moreover, Li Zongjie was her savior. He had a lot of secrets. Sure, but you have to hand over your carefree body technique. Li Zongjie said. There could only be one deputy leader. If Li Zongjie died now, Du Xiaojia would directly become the leader. There was a reason why Li Zongjie did not kill the Qin gang leader just now. It was because of this. If the guild building token had an emergency mechanism, after the original leader died, and the guild building token changed hands, it would directly lock onto the deputy leader, and erase the effect of the guild building token in Li Zongjie's hands. Instead, it would be used on the deputy leader. Li Zongjie's efforts would have been in vain. Hearing that Li Zongjie was also thinking about her carefree body technique, Du Xiaojia immediately took a step back. Du Xiaojia took 2 steps back vigilantly. Don't even think about snatching my free and unfettered body art. I still have very powerful people above me, and my luck has always been very good. Chapter 1634. Li Zongjie originally wanted to snatch it. However, to Li Zongjie, it didn't matter if he had it or not. Hence, Li Zongjie didn't care about it. If he bought it, it wouldn't be too expensive. Hence, he didn't force it. However, the guild creation token was different. The guild creation tablet was worth 500,000 soul beans. The benefits it could bring were uncountable. Hence, Li Zongjie had to snatch it. Even if he had to kill some people, he had to do it. However, for the carefree Dharma body, Li Zongjie was indeed very interested as he watched. However, one had to know that this thing was only ranked in the top 100. Hence, Li Zongjie wasn't very interested in its value. If this thing could reach the top 10, he wouldn't hesitate to kill Du Xiaojia in front of him. Otherwise, you'll have to take the initiative to hand it over. Otherwise, death was the only way out for them. Li Zongjie had always done things simply. Your movement technique is only ranked in the top 100. I'm not very interested. Li Zongjie waved his hand and said, if he could obtain this huge Qin gang. For Li Zongjie, it would be a great tool to increase his strength. He had to study this thing properly. Du Xiaojia also glanced left and right. I didn't expect you to be so arrogant. How about this? I'll be friends with you. My name is Du Xiaojia. You can call me Miss Du. Du Xiaojia said generously. She actually extended her hand to Li Zongjie. Li Zongjie naturally wouldn't be stingy. He shook her hand. Li Zongjie. There was nothing wrong with telling her his name. If you have any problems in the future, come find me in Spirit Void City. It's not fun here. I'll leave first. Du Xiaojia didn't plan to stay here for long. After all, there were dangers all around. It was better to leave this place first. Li Zongjie did not stop him. Spirit Void City? It was probably one of the main cities, but he didn't know how strong it was compared to the Crimson Soul City. When Hong Long saw the other party leave, he quickly showed himself and came to Li Zongjie. How is it? Done. Hong Long was also pleasantly surprised. At the very least, he had seen Li Zongjie snatch the token from the other party's body. Done. Do you want to join? Li Zongjie looked at Hong Long and said. Hong Long did not expect Li Zongjie to invite him to join the faction. He was so excited that he did not know what to do. Do I have the chance? Hong Long said. How do I add this in? Li Zongjie didn't seem to understand how to use the guild establishment token. You just need to let the members drip a drop of blood on the guild establishment token. Hong Long said. Then, he dripped a drop of blood on the guild establishment token. Immediately, a wave of energy came from the guild establishment token. In Li Zongjie's mind, information about Hong Long appeared. Of course, it was just some basic information about his strength and contribution. He couldn't see anything else. After all, this was a faction, not some strange machine. Promote him to the deputy faction leader. Li Zongjie held the guild establishment token in his hand and used his mind to control it. Suddenly, a ray of light came from the guild establishment token and landed on Hong Long's body. Hong Long was flattered. He didn't expect Li Zongjie to give him the position of deputy faction leader directly. What kind of honor was this? He had never experienced such trust between people before. If ordinary people wanted to join a faction, they would have to pay a price. At the very least, they would have to pay a fee to join the faction. With a faction, ordinary people would not dare to bully you. However, it was not easy to join a faction. It was impossible to join just because you wanted to. The position of deputy faction leader also had more power. He could command the members of the faction and take the initiative to recruit members. It was considered that he had gained a part of the authority to manage the faction. It was considered a high position. If one could gain a part of the authority in such a position, how powerful would he be and how convenient it would be? Of course, it also depended on how he used it. Moreover, the position of deputy gang leader required a person who was very trustworthy to be qualified for it. Li Zongjie didn't care. As long as the person was trustworthy enough, it was fine. It didn't matter if the person was powerful or not. Anyway, he was the strongest in the faction. This was Li Zongjie's thought. He wouldn't waste too much time thinking about these things. Thank you, faction leader. Hong Long said excitedly. In the future, I'll leave all the messy matters in the faction to you. Li Zongjie said. He naturally didn't have the time to care about these matters. Therefore, he let Hong Long do it. Anyway, Hong Long seemed to be good in this aspect. It would be easier to leave it to him. By the way, the girl just said that she was from the Spirit Void City. Where is the Spirit Void City? Li Zongjie didn't know much about the situation in the macro world. When Li Zongjie said the words Spirit Void City, Hong Long was stunned. Hong Long paused for a moment, as if he had been bitten, or as if he had bumped into the tree. His entire body froze. You mean the Spirit Void City? Hong Long? He asked Li Zongjie in shock. Yes. Li Zongjie was sure that he didn't hear it wrong. Besides, he couldn't have made up a name. Spirit Void City, it's real? Hong Long muttered to himself. He seemed to be in endless shock. Being slapped by the shocking waves again and again? He was completely dumbfounded by the slap. Is this place very special? In the entire limitless True Flame world, there are 5 main cities, but in reality, there are only 6. This 6th main city is also a legendary existence. It is said that in this main city, even the weakest one has the strength of the celestial realm. Li Zongjie understood when he heard this. So much foreshadowing. The 6th main city was the Spirit Void City. It was just that no one knew where the Spirit Void City was. But looking at the guy in front of him, he understood that the Spirit Void City was not a legend. It was just a legend in the eyes of ordinary people. When you have enough strength to come in contact with these things, you can really master these legendary things. Those who were once high and mighty will also appear in front of you. Everything will no longer be a legend. It seems that I have to go to the Spirit Void City if I have the chance. Everyone is in the celestial realm, which means that there are stronger existences. There must be good things in it. Chapter 1635. This was something that Li Zongjie did not expect. This little girl actually came from the Spirit Void main city. No wonder she was so confident in escaping from the Qing gang's leader and the other experts. This was indeed something that Li Zongjie did not expect. Otherwise, if he squeezed this little girl dry, he might be able to get other treasures. If I knew this guy would hand over the position of leader so easily, I wouldn't have killed those experts. Li Zongjie regretted killing people. Who knew that the guild-building token would have such a great effect? Why did he have to kill those people? He could have just left them here. He would definitely be able to create some other value. Li Zongjie and Lin Fan left the place. 2 days passed. The elite team that went out to hunt demons finally returned. After all, their soul imprints were in Li Zongjie's hands. Hence, it was not difficult to find Li Zongjie. These people were obviously very tired. After a series of battles, this elite team was already on the verge of collapsing. Now they were finally done. They just wanted to collect the heads of these demons as soon as possible in exchange for their lives. 5 people appeared in front of Li Zongjie. There were a total of 100 demons on the bounty notice in his hand. Li Zongjie was very satisfied. These people had no choice but to hand over the items to Li Zongjie and complete the transfer of the number of demons on the notice. Now that the number of demons is enough, and we have given you the items, please keep your promise, sir. The leader of the other party said bravely. Now it was time to decide life and death. Li Zhongjiu looked at the nervous faces of these people. I can return your soul imprints to you, Li Zhongjiu said. Everyone's eyes lit up. However, when he said that, they could not help but feel their hearts tighten. Usually when someone said this, there must be other conditions. This immediately made everyone nervous. Sure enough, he wouldn't let them off so easily. When they thought of such a situation, although they were already mentally prepared, when such a situation appeared, they were still shocked. They could only accept it. If he couldn't accept it, what else could he do? To die. Although the process of living in such a large world was very painful, who would be willing to accept death? Sometimes it was just a small step to enter a wonderful world and have a supreme status. Only by living could one have the hope of obtaining everything. Everyone was waiting for Li Zhongjiu to speak, as if they were waiting for a death sentence. If you want to join my gang and work for me, I will return your soul imprints. This way, it won't be considered as breaking our agreement, Li Zhongjiu said. He was a very trustworthy person. Sometimes, if he said that he wanted your entire family dead, he would kill your entire family. Even if he left a small survivor, it would become a standard for breaking his promise. Join a gang. Everyone looked at Li Zhongjiu in surprise. You only need to join a gang? You have a gang? These people couldn't believe their ears. They thought that they had heard wrongly. They continued to ask the same question again. That's right. Li Zhongjiu nodded and said. At the same time, he took out the guild building token. He placed it in front of everyone. After dripping your blood into the gang, your soul will be returned automatically. These 5 people did not disband after going through such a thing, which showed that their cohesiveness was very strong. At least this group of people had something to look forward to. It was very rare to be so united in such an environment in this large world. It just so happened that Li Zhongjiu couldn't find anyone else to use at the moment, so he recruited all 5 of them. Although there were other people in the gang, Li Zhongjiu did not know them. How could he command them to do things? It was not easy to manage. At this moment, the man in the lead finally took a step forward and gathered his courage. No matter what, they would die anyway. Now that Li Zhongjiu had a gang, for idle people like them. Of course, it was a very good thing. They even wanted to join some gangs to protect themselves. But now there was such a good opportunity. Li Zhongjiu didn't know how difficult it was to set up a gang. As long as you set it up, there would be countless people flocking to join your gang. After the leader of the group joined the gang, the leader of the group became a disciple. Li Zhongjiu automatically returned his soul imprint. There was also a disadvantage after joining the gang. That was, if you did not get permission, you could not leave the gang. In other words, you had to continue to work for the gang, sharing honor and disgrace. Of course, this was not a big deal for people who joined the gang voluntarily. The restrictions of the gang were not that strong. They only needed to pay tribute on time. The others saw that he had taken back his soul imprint and followed suit. Suddenly, Li Zhongjiu's gang had 5 new members. Since you are all members of my Qing gang, earn more money in the future, Li Zhongjiu said. In the Shengwu continent, Li Zhongjiu was in charge of many forces. Even the largest White Deer mansion was founded by Li Zhongjiu. But in fact, in terms of management, Li Zhongjiu did not have any thoughts in this area. So he directly let Hong Long manage it. After joining the gang, Li Zhongjiu did not continue to keep these people and let them go freely. After that, Li Zhongjiu also wandered around for a few days. Then, he headed towards the Crimson Soul City. At this moment, in the Crimson Soul City, the original leader of the Qing gang had also returned to the main city and quickly reported the matter of the gang establishment token. The report was reported to Commander Mishur. Commander Mishur was also well known in the Crimson Soul City. He was ruthless and killed people like flax. Because of the cultivation method he cultivated, Commander Mishur looked like a stone man. His combat strength was extremely strong. The defense of his physical body alone was equivalent to an immortal armor. If an ordinary person wanted to break through, it was almost impossible. After Commander Mishur heard what the leader of the Qing gang said, his eyes darkened slightly. Haha, how dare you? Find this person for me. Tell him that I, Mishur, am looking for him. Commander Mishur laughed like a stone with a crack. In the Crimson Soul City, it was too easy for him to find a person with his authority. He did not expect that someone would dare to mess with him. It was simply courting death. Chapter 1636. In the Mishur Hall where Commander Mishur was, he had a total of 500 ironstone soldiers under him. The strength of this group of people could be said to be very strong. At least, it was impossible to find one to fight against their ironstone army alone. Soon, Commander Mishur had already sent people to find news about the new gang leader of Qin Gang. However, this could only be done in secret. When you have this power, you must also shoulder the corresponding responsibility. At the same time, there were some restrictions. For example, if you want to control this gang, you must do it in secret. Using your own means and strength, you must secretly establish this gang and let someone take over this gang. Then, the gang leader who had been promoted would be able to hand over all the benefits to him. This was the benefit of having power. It could easily settle all these matters. It allowed you to reap greater profits. Even people who had the power and the means would do so. Even the city lord of the Crimson Soul City was doing it in the same way, using this method to reap greater profits. He, Commander Mishur, had so many soldiers to raise, so the daily consumption was also a very large number. Otherwise, how could he raise such a powerful army? Everything was linked to these things. Now Li Zongjio had touched a piece of Commander Mishur's cake. That must be to find Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio and the others were not surprised that someone wanted to deal with him. But it was not easy for these people to deal with him. Li Zongjio did not show up, but asked Hong Long to hand in the demon mission. Li Zongjio was not stupid. There must be someone in Red Soul City who was watching him. But the effect of this gang building token was in fact one way. The gang leader could find the members of Qin Gang. But the members of the gang could not locate the gang leader. It was not an easy task to find Li Zongjio in this vast sea of people. Li Zongjio and the others secretly returned to the Crimson Soul City, and at the same time, changed to another inn. Li Zongjio dismissed the members of the elite team on the spot. If there was another mission involving a group of demons, he would summon them again. Every day, Li Zongjio's current setting was to extract 2 soul beans from each gang member. Currently, there were 36 members in Li Zongjio's gang. Every day, he could obtain 72 soul beans. In a month, he would be able to obtain over 2,000 soul beans. This made Li Zongjio very satisfied. Although there weren't many right now, in the future, when the gang grew to over 1,000 or even 10,000 people, how terrifying would the soul beans be? Li Zongjio moved his fingers and calculated. This was indeed a little cool. As for the members of the Qin Gang, Li Zongjio had never seen him before, so he did not know him. He did not have much interest in paying attention to these people. Who knew if there would be any trouble left behind from before among these people? Li Zongjio casually found a small, relatively hidden building. This small building was beside a mountain and a river. It was an elegant place. It was called the Mountain Residence Building. It was said that the real owner of this mountain residence was a stunning woman. However, very few people could see her. Usually, it was her subordinates who took care of it. It was considered a quiet place, and many people liked to live in such a place. However, the fees were much more expensive than outside. Just a day alone required a total of 20 soul beans. The mountain residence building had a total of 8 courtyards. They were all independent courtyards, and usually 2 or 3 families could live in the courtyards. However, Li Zongjio directly booked one of them. How could he allow others to snore next to his bed? If he was targeted by others in such a place, it would be very dangerous. Therefore, Li Zongjio spent 50 soul beans a day to book this one. He should have obtained many things from the demon group mission. However, most of Li Zongjio's soul beans had been consumed by poison dragon Aotion and the tiger Tally. He was left with less than 500. In the evening, Hong Long returned. On the way back, he did not dare to believe it. He even looked left and right, trying to be secretive. It wasn't until he returned to Li Zongjio's place that he secretly took out the rewards he had received. What is it? Why are you being so secretive? Li Zongjio looked at Hong Long in front of him. With his sneaky look, Those who did not know better would think that he had stolen some treasure. Huff, huff, you should be mentally prepared. Li Zongjio had seen all kinds of situations before. He actually needed to be mentally prepared. He immediately took out the unparalleled sword. If you don't tell me, I'll cut you down immediately. Hong Long shook his head helplessly. Seeing Li Zongjio's lack of emotion, he finally took out all the things he had obtained. When Li Zongjio saw the item, he was stunned. No way. That's right. I didn't expect the city lord to be so generous this time. Hong Long did not seem to expect it either. The demon gang's mission this time was actually able to give out such a great reward. Fortunately, the receiving of these mission rewards was also in a secret state. They were all independent rooms. Unless one's performance was particularly obvious, otherwise, it was impossible to tell what kind of things one had received. Hong Long's expression was also very good. Therefore, he quickly took out the item. When Li Zongjio saw the item in his hand, he was very surprised. Guild building token. Another guild building token. Now that Li Zongjio had a guild, this guild building token was superfluous to Li Zongjio. As long as he sold it, he could get 500,000 soul beans. This item is good. Just sell it, Li Zongjio said. These things didn't seem to be very difficult to obtain. Oh, otherwise, how could he obtain such things in his hands now? It seemed that he was also the son of fate. We can sell it and upgrade the guild, Hong Long said in a low voice. Upgrade the guild? When Li Zongjio heard Hong Long's words, he was stunned. What did he mean? Did he want to upgrade the guild? That's right. Upgrading the guild can increase the maximum number of members. It can even have other functions, such as obtaining the guild's resident rights. Within this resident rights, even the city lord cannot control what happens inside. If anyone from outside the guild walks in, the guild master can use the resident rights to kill them, Hong Long said. Li Zongjio's eyes lit up. He could ignore the other things, but it was still the right to directly kill people. This seemed to be a little satisfying. It was very suitable for him. Is there such a good thing? Li Zongjio did not expect this. Then, he looked at his own guild's data. Indeed, it was a grade 1 guild. The number of members could only accommodate 200 people. This meant that there was a limit. A grade 2 guild could accommodate 1,000 people. In the entire Crimson Spirit City, there were only 3 grade 2 guilds. Thousand Moon Sect, Heavenly Fiend Alliance, and the Night Ghost Gang, which was hidden deep and kept a low profile. Chapter 1637. Therefore, if an enemy dared to trespass into the territory of these 3 factions, they could kill you at any time. Even the city lord's influence would not be able to spread here. This would allow the gang's power to grow better, and it would be more effective in deterring others. If a second-grade faction openly recruited, there would be countless people who would want to join. Naturally, its influence would be extraordinary. Li Zongjio did not think that he would be so lucky as to find a new guild creation token, and even upgrade it. Then hurry up and upgrade it. How do I upgrade it? Li Zongjio said. It's not that simple. I've checked. If you want to upgrade this second-grade faction, other than the guild creation token, you need 10,000 soul beans. At the same time, you need to have your own territory. That is, you need to buy a house. Or you can just rob it. Hong Long had been following Li Zongjio all this time, and had seen the outside world. At the same time, he understood that the best way to get what he wanted was to directly rob it. It was the most direct. Do you think I'm a bandit? Do you think I get everything by robbing? Li Zongjio was immediately unhappy. This guy was treating him like a bandit. Sometimes he just didn't want to cause trouble. Since someone else had the item, he would just take care of it. However, Hong Long's suggestion was not impossible. However, if he wanted to rob 10,000 soul beans, it would be a little difficult. After all, who would carry so many soul beans with them at all times? Otherwise, he would have directly robbed the warehouse of this small mountain residence. Then he would definitely be able to obtain a large amount of soul beans. After all, his daily income was in the hundreds. In addition to some other things, he would only need half a month to earn 10,000 soul beans. However, Li Zongjio did some calculations. He did not think that opening an inn would be able to earn so much money. He heard that the owner of this small mountain residence owned more than one inn. If there were hundreds of them, there would be nothing to worry about. Li Zongjie felt it was a pity that he didn't bring Xiao Zhao with him. Otherwise, with Xiao Zhao's mind, he would be able to think of some ways to make money very quickly. Therefore, Li Zongjie could only wait. He would wait for an opportunity to appear, and see how he could gather the 10,000 soul beans. After all, he already had a guild establishment token that was worth 500,000 gold coins. Furthermore, he had the backing of an entire gang. Although there weren't many people, they were still able to easily obtain these soul beans. Put this thing aside for now. Are there any other rewards? If the reward was something good, he might be able to sell it for a good price. Since there was such an opportunity, of course, he would not waste it. He was also rewarded with 1,500 soul beans. They're all here. Hong Long handed over everything without concealing anything. So petty. Li Zongjie almost had the urge to overturn the city lord's mansion. Wasn't there supposed to be a generous reward? But now, he was only given such a small amount of things. What use could these things have? Be content. This is already considered generous. You haven't seen how stingy the city lord's mansion is, Hong Long said. Clearly, Hong Long knew the city lord's mansion very well. It was already very difficult to obtain soul beans. At least he gave us a guild establishment token. This isn't something that can be obtained so easily. Hong Long comforted Li Zongjie. 1,500. What's the use of these soul beans? I still have to do it myself, Li Zongjie said. Then he looked at Hong Long. How about this? Go and see if there are any suitable missions. I'll cultivate first. Li Zongjie could feel that he was about to touch the barrier of the breakthrough. Therefore, he needed some time to cultivate. Silence. However, in this great world, the improvement of one's strength was indeed very fast. At least Li Zongjie was confident that he could break through to the celestial realm within half a year. In the Shengwu continent, there was still a doppelganger that was ready to explode at any time. At least in this period of time, the doppelganger's strength would continue to grow rapidly. Therefore, he couldn't underestimate it. He couldn't ignore it either. He glanced at his time funnel. It had already been a month since he arrived here. Time passed really quickly. It's only been a month. It's not bad to have such a breakthrough, Li Zongjie thought to himself. At least his current state had improved quite well. If he wanted to break through so quickly in the Shengwu continent, he naturally wouldn't have such an opportunity. Therefore, Li Zongjie didn't reject this great world. In fact, he was already familiar with such a dangerous environment. Okay, I'll go look for it. Hong Long exited the small mountain residence. That was to wait in the main hall and see if there were any suitable missions that appeared. Li Zongjie meditated in front of the mountains and rivers. The effects of the 100 Calamity Elixir were still vivid in his mind. In addition to the recent battle experience, he had integrated all of it into his body. He began to gradually improve his strength. Gradually, he touched the barrier of innate level 8. Li Zongjie also tried to concentrate his strength and directly break through the barrier. However, it didn't seem to be very effective. He lacked the strength to break through the barrier. Soon, Li Zongjie also picked up the soul bean in his hand. This thing is really the spring of power. Li Zongjie directly crushed the soul bean and absorbed the power into his body. Boom! Immediately, a storm of power formed in Li Zongjie's body. Soon, this power rushed directly to Li Zongjie's barrier. That terrifying commotion instantly broke through the barrier around his body. The entire mountain residence was filled with Li Zongjie's powerful strength. Coincidentally, in the depths of the mountain residence, there was a small bamboo house in the dense forest. When it felt this power, it immediately raised its head. The power of innate level 8? I didn't expect that my little mountain dwelling would be a cultivation treasure ground. In the bamboo forest residence, two beautiful figures sat at the table drinking tea and chatting. When they felt the power, they smiled. Sister's mountain residence was built with the 8 Gates Heavenly Mystery Formation. Even if you don't know anything, living here will be very beneficial. If you know how to use the power of the 8 Gates Heavenly Mystery Formation, the benefits will be enormous. It's a pity that there are too few experts who know about formations. Although there are many books on formations, there are very few who are talented. My 8 Gates Heavenly Mystery Formation has been covered in dust for a long time. Just as the woman in green shook her head and sighed. Suddenly, an extremely familiar fluctuation quietly appeared here. Moreover, it also became lively. Instantly, a trace of shock appeared in the eyes of the woman in green. Chapter 1638. The mountain residence was originally a place where the lady in green experimented with arrays. He wanted to apply all the formations that he had learned. So she used this wooden house to form an 8 Gates Heavenly Xian array. However, no one had been able to activate the power of the 8 Gates Heavenly Xian array since the mountain residence was built. This array was of a higher level, so it was hidden deeper. It would be difficult for an ordinary person to find this array and activate it. She did not expect to meet someone who could discover the secret of this 8 Gates Heavenly Xian array today. This person was Li Zongjio. When Li Zongjio discovered this formation, he was also shocked. This was because he was amazed by who had placed such an exquisite formation in this place. This 8 Gates Heavenly Xian array was of a rather high level. It was at least level 11. Therefore, Li Zongjio himself spent a lot of time to find a way to activate this array formation and directly activate it. Boom! Although he did not know who set up the 8 Gates Heavenly Xian array here, Li Zongjio needed it now. He could make use of the power of this array to consolidate his cultivation at Xiantian level 8. Li Zongjio activated the Heaven Void God form record. Li Zongjio himself was very surprised by the gradual decrease in power. He absorbed the terrifying spiritual qi. Finally, Li Zongjio stabilized this power at innate level 8. Furthermore, he was able to clearly sense how powerful his strength had become after his breakthrough. This is incredible. Li Zongjio thought to himself. If it was not for this 8 Gates Heavenly Xian array, Li Zongjio would have to consume a large amount of soul beans to stabilize his cultivation. Otherwise, this power would fall back quickly, which was equivalent to a failed breakthrough. Fortunately, he succeeded. However, this 8 Gates Heavenly Xian array seems to be lacking a little. When Li Zongjio tried to absorb the power of this array, he almost destroyed the 8 Gates Heavenly Xian array. The power that suddenly surged out was too strong. However, the structure of this 8 Gates Heavenly Xian array was not that sturdy and complete. Therefore, when the power was activated to a certain extent, the entire array would be in a state of collapse. It was clear that the people who had set up this formation back then weren't very skilled at it either. Li Zongjio's mind power surged into the array disk of the 8 Gates Heavenly Xian array. Soon, they found a few places that were specially set up to create such power. Li Zongjio quickly changed some of the feng shui positions. The 8 Gates Profound Heaven formation directly integrated everything in the surroundings into the formation. It borrowed the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth to activate and inactivate them. Therefore, Li Zongjio only needed to transfer a few things to make a move. Sister, he's modifying your array. Beside the green-clothed lady, a purple-clothed young lady's eyes were also filled with shock. She never thought that this person would be so bold. Wasn't this showing off in front of an expert? One had to know that her elder sister was the #1 array master in this Crimson Soul City. This person was simply too arrogant and conceited. In the eyes of this array master, it would be seen as a provocation. Sure. The lady in green signaled the latter to keep quiet. The 8 Gates Heavenly Xian array was an early work. She was very clear about the flaws it had. However, he had never been able to modify it. She only treated it as a kind of appreciation for her own work. Therefore, this thing had always been there. She did not expect this person to activate this array just now. He found the weakness of the array so quickly. Water Gate, Stone Gate, Forest Gate, Bamboo Gate, Mountain Gate, Dragon Gate, Chi Gate, Heaven Gate. He grasped it so accurately. This person's foundation is very good. Not only that, his talent is also very high. The latter said in surprise. Under this adjustment, Li Zongjio also strengthened these few weak points. It reached the true state of endless growth. The 8 Gates Heavenly Xian array. However, the lady in green smiled slightly, and her mental strength suddenly surged. In the side of the courtyard, a blazing fire suddenly burned. In this way, it directly joined the fire gate among the 8 gates. When the fire gate appeared, Li Zhongjie also realized that there was an expert around. Perhaps the person who set up the 8 gates Heavenly Xian Array had joined the fire gate? It would cause the 8 gates Heavenly Xian Array to attack each other and create chaos. The other party made a move to test Li Zhongjie's strength. However, Li Zhongjie was just casually interested. He was not here to play games with you. If you want to cause such destruction, then do as you please. Li Zhongjie still had a lot of things to do. Therefore, Li Zhongjie did not care about the sudden addition of the fire gate. It was obvious that there was going to be a problem. However, Li Zhongjie still did not make a move. The lady in green in the bamboo forest suddenly shouted angrily. This guy actually did not make a move. This angered the lady in green. In an instant, the flame was extinguished. I didn't expect this person to be so arrogant. The lady in green obviously did not expect that Li Zhongjie, a mere innate level 8, could be so arrogant. Even the sky human realm was not as arrogant as you. He really did not know how to appreciate favors. Originally, she wanted to promote Li Zhongjie. She thought that Li Zhongjie would be a very interesting person. However, who would have thought that in the end, things would turn out like this? Li Zhongjie completely ignored her. This made the latter very surprised. In this red spirit city, no one dared to treat her with such an attitude. Haha. I didn't expect that there would actually be someone who could anger elder sister to this extent. If this person knew elder sister's name, his intestines would probably turn green with regret. Such a good opportunity, yet he couldn't grasp it. How bad is this person's luck? The purple-clothed girl said with a smile. Let's leave it to fate. The lady in green said indifferently. In another 2 months, we will be recruiting new people. Recently in this city, are there any rising stars? I have also been to the training tower to look for them recently. However, they are only a bunch of boorish people who fight and kill. They can't be considered rising stars. If we can't find anyone with talent, then what about the next Spirit Void Heaven? It's going to be a failure. What's a mere Spirit Void Heaven? With elder sister here, even if they went to Spirit Void Heaven, they might not be a match for elder sister. Chapter 1639. This time, the storm of changing the array had passed. Li Zhongjie did not delve too deeply into the matter to find out what was going on. The other party had also extinguished the flame. In the next few days, Hong Long continuously looked for strange missions. However, these missions did not catch Li Zhongjie's attention. He directly rejected all these missions. He also did not care about these 10,000 soul beans. Right now, the Qing gang's members had not reached the upper limit. Hence, they were not in a hurry to upgrade the gang. They had to slowly wait for an opportunity. Afterwards, Li Zhongjie also sorted out his cultivation. At the same time, he discovered that the effects of the evil dragons could be felt even more deeply in this great world. In my opinion, this evil dragons originally belonged to this place. Li Zhongjie also discovered the special characteristics of the evil dragon's eye. In the world of the evil dragon's eye, one could revive without limit. In other places this was impossible. However, in the world of the evil dragon's eye, it could be easily done. This kind of power, and even this kind of setting, was very familiar to the entire great world. The rules were all set. Hence, the evil dragon's eye in his hand was similar. But how was it brought down? However, Li Zhongjie did not know how effective it would be. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. In this month, Li Zhongjie did not move around much. Instead, he focused on cultivating. The surrounding spirit qi was also very dense. It was very helpful for cultivation. Li Zhongjie's cultivation had also stabilized at innate level 8. Normally, he would try to concoct some pills. It was because he was concocting these pills. This allowed Li Zhongjie's alchemy skills to improve even more. Hong Long also tried his best to recruit members during this period of time. Now the Qing gang had more than 100 people. For many people, being able to join a gang was already a dream come true. At the very least, there would be someone to protect them. There was a gang. and everyone supported each other, even though the gang leader had never shown his face. However, this didn't hinder the development of the Qing gang. Li Zongjio received over 200 soul beans every day, which was a pretty decent income. Ao Tian's injuries had also recovered. After recuperating for the past few days, he had also grown a lot stronger. Moreover, in this small mountain residence, they ate well, slept well, and did not have to worry about food and clothing. Therefore, under such circumstances they quickly gained weight. On this day, Ao Tian wanted to go out for a walk and take a stroll. He couldn't be trapped in this small mountain house forever. Anyway, he had Li Zongjio's protection. He didn't expect Li Zongjio to raise his cultivation to such a level in such a short time. It was truly shocking. Ao Tian had only gone out for half a day, and he actually sent a distress signal to Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio, who was cultivating, immediately widened his eyes when he received the signal. He stared in Ao Tian's direction, revealing a trace of darkness in his eyes. Ao Tian has been captured. Hong Long hurriedly came in front of Li Zongjio. Should we call for reinforcements? We have over 100 people in the Qing gang. As long as we give the order, over 100 people will immediately charge out. As the vice faction leader, Hong Long still had the right to give orders. However, Li Zongjio waved his hand. If they could defeat Ao Tian, innate level 9 was enough. However, if they wanted to capture Ao Tian, they would need to be at least in the heaven realm. Therefore, even if all the people in the Qing gang were added together, they wouldn't be able to deliver this head. No matter how many people went, they would just be sending themselves to their deaths. Only when Li Zongjio personally made a trip could he investigate this matter clearly. He definitely couldn't let the other party be too arrogant. Although Li Zongjio hadn't faced a heaven realm expert before. So what if you were in the heaven realm? Anyone who dared to touch Li Zongjio's men would be regarded as a provocation. Li Zongjio's figure flashed. He leaped towards the sky. Hong Long looked at Li Zongjio's departing figure and couldn't help but flash a trace of worry in his eyes. He didn't know what Li Zongjio's situation was like. Under normal circumstances, Li Zongjio would also ask Hong Long to come along. After all, some situations and information could only be understood from Hong Long. However, this time, he didn't have the intention to ask Hong Long obviously. This matter had now reached a very awkward moment. Hong Long's heart was also very worried. Li Zongjio's figure swept past the Crimson Soul City. The other party deliberately lured Li Zongjio out of the city, at least 500 miles away. Close to this place was a surging river. The river was fierce, as if countless wild beasts were fiercely running. But the surroundings were silent. Finally, Li Zongjio's figure landed. Nearby, there was some aura left behind by Ao Tian. Obviously, Ao Tian was active here before. I'm already here. Since you're in the heaven realm, why do you need to be sneaky? Li Zongjio said indifferently. It seemed like he was talking to the air, but also seemed to be talking to himself. It was strange to see them like this. But after Li Zongjio's voice fell, above the river in front, a water curtain gushed out. The water curtain spread out. In front of his eyes, he could see that Ao Tian was trapped under this water prison. He was also seriously injured and was on the verge of death. Seeing this scene, Li Zongjio's eyes changed slightly, even though Ao Tian himself was rather unrestrained and unrestrained. But at least he was someone who had an agreement with Li Zongjio. Since they had already made an agreement, then to Li Zongjio, he was one of them. You trust me, I'll help you. He treated Ao Tian as his own companion. Now that he saw his companion being beaten up like this, how could Li Zongjio not be angry? You're quite capable. I worked so hard to catch the poison dragon, but you actually snatched it away. A voice came from the other side of the river. The other party was obviously more careful, and they were also worried about what kind of expert Li Zongjio would be. But when they saw Li Zongjio, they couldn't help but feel that they were making a big fuss. They didn't expect the other party to be such a brat. A mere innate level 8? And he managed to trick his poison dragon away. With your strength, you were able to break the transcendental chains. I believe you must have a celestial artifact in your hands. Hand it over, and I'll give you a quick death. Li Zongjio also saw the other party's figure clearly. He was wearing a green robe, and his face was yellow and emaciated. But from his eyes, he could tell that this person's appearance was that of a young man. He couldn't be too old. You want it? Take it yourself. Chapter 1640. Even if Li Zongjio wanted to escape, it was impossible for the green-robed man to let Li Zongjio leave. Li Zongjio would not allow the green-robed man to imprison Aotion like this. The green-robed man saw that Li Zongjio was acting recklessly, trying to provoke the strength of a celestial realm expert. He immediately snorted coldly. He struck out with his palm across the air. Then let me see how powerful you are. A gust of wind condensed in the sky, and a giant palm suddenly fell towards Li Zongjio. The poisonous gas condensed into a palm print in the sky. Boom! Li Zongjio's figure disappeared. However, in the green-robed man's eyes, Li Zongjio's speed had completely exposed his own strength, and he was so vulnerable. You want to compete with me with such speed? Kneel down and beg for mercy, and I can give you a quick death. The green-robed man laughed. With just one move, he had already tested Li Zongjio's strength. He thought that Li Zongjio was hiding some kind of power, but now it seemed that it was just SOSO, and he was still at the mercy of the green-robed man. A mere innate realm expert dared to compete with him. This was a great provocation to the green-robed man, and he had to kill Li Zongjio first. Li Zongjio summoned the tiger-headed warrior without hesitation. The tiger-headed warrior landed, and with a roar, the two hammers collided. The fallen clan? How dare such a trashy race jump in front of me? The green-robed man growled, and directly pointed his finger, which seemed to turn into a terrifying light at this moment. This green light flew, and directly turned into a giant python, rushing towards the tiger-headed warrior. Even if it was a giant python that burst out casually, it was still a giant python of the celestial realm. The tiger-headed warrior would not be able to hold on for long, and would definitely be defeated. Let's see what else you have. Li Zongjio fought and retreated. The green-robed man also chased after Li Zongjio without fear. At this moment, at the place where Li Zongjio had been, the unparalleled sword quietly emerged. When both of them were relatively far away, it directly dived into the water. Boom! The unparalleled sword rushed into the water prison, and directly cut open the water prison that trapped Aotion. Ao opened his eyes, and recognized the aura of the unparalleled sword, which was the aura of Li Zongjio. He was astonished. Grabbing it, he allowed the unparalleled sword to send him flying. Although the unparalleled sword was still unable to reveal Huo Wushuang's true form for the time being, Huo Wushuang's true form could not be revealed. But it was unparalleled sword was able to control unparalleled sword. This was also a benefit had unparalleled, sword was able to could communicate with unparalleled, could communicate with him. Therefore, Li Zongjio deliberately lured the green-robed ancestor away. It was not a wise thing to be entangled with a celestial realm expert. Li Zongjio had never thought of defeating a celestial realm expert. He only needed to save Aotion. When the water prison was broken, the green-robed man also paused. He looked back at the direction of the water prison that he had set up, and his eyes were already sure that his water prison was broken. Li Zongjio did not come alone. It seems that although your cultivation is high, your brain is not very good. Li Zongjio sneered, and did not give the green-robed man time to react. His words were completely infuriated by the latter. You're courting death, the green-robed man shouted angrily. At this moment, he did not intend to waste any more time with Li Zongjio. His body rose into the air, and directly grabbed the ground. Then there seemed to be dozens of huge cracks on the ground. The cracks also directly formed a spider's arm. With a loud bang, this huge spider directly dragged Li Zongjio up. What? Li Zongjio felt the changes on the ground. This kind of summoned spider was at least 100 meters wide. With such a huge body, it was definitely a very terrifying movement for Li Zongjio. Boom! The strength of a celestial realm expert was really powerful. It could easily create such a big movement. Li Zongjio punched the spider's back. He wanted to smash the spider to the ground, but he found that there was no reaction from the spider at all when he punched it. Only some of the soil on the surface flew out a little. Kill him. At the green-robed man's command, this spider directly rolled on the ground and quickly pressed Li Zhongjiu under its body. At the same time, its sharp spider legs fell down like raindrops. One after another, they were all aimed at Li Zhongjiu's head. If it were anyone else, facing such a dense rain of attacks, they would have been beaten into a hornet's nest. However, Li Zhongjiu had mastered a skill. He was training in the evil dragon's eye almost every day. 2 of the 9-headed snake's heads had already been smashed by Li Zhongjiu, and now the spider's speed could be said to be very terrifying. Therefore, Li Zhongjiu's reaction speed was far faster than the spider in front of him. In Li Zhongjiu's eyes, the spider's movement in front of him was also very slow. However, Li Zhongjiu had to pretend that it was very difficult for him. Otherwise, if the spider used some kind of move and increased its strength, he would have to use some kind of ultimate move. Immediately, Li Zhongjiu quickly dodged, and each time, he narrowly avoided the spider's attack. At the same time, he also tried to counterattack. He punched the spider's leg. However, it did not have any effect. It was as solid as a rock. It's really hard to fight. Li Zhongjiu glanced at it. The strength of the celestial realm was already so strong. During this period of time, he had been wanting to break through to the celestial realm as soon as possible. However, he always felt that there was a force above the celestial realm that blocked the path to the celestial realm. In order to break through this path, the power needed was beyond Li Zhongjiu's imagination. Some people would be completely suppressed by it for their whole life and would never be able to rise again. They would never be able to reach the celestial realm. This was also the reason why Li Zhongjiu knew that the other party was in the celestial realm and still wanted to appear. It was also because he wanted to take this opportunity to experience the strength of the celestial realm. Only after understanding it could he make better preparations and more or less have an idea in his mind. Otherwise, it would be hard to imagine how strong the celestial being realm was based on one's own guesses. First, find a celestial realm to practice. This was probably Li Zhongjiu's idea. Only Li Zhongjiu dared to have such a bold idea. If it were anyone else, it would be too late to escape. How dare you trick me? The green-robed man also realized that Li Zhongjiu was obviously teasing him. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Immediately, the spider on the ground raised its body high at this moment. Hey. Chapter 1641. He had actually changed from crawling to walking upright. Stones were also falling from their bodies one after another. The green-robed man landed on the spider's body. Immediately, a terrifying aura burst out. Boom! A strong force instantly spread out. The spider shook its head, and suddenly, dozens of energy waves burst out and rushed over on the ground. Li Zhongjiu kept dodging, but eventually, he was hit by one of the energy waves. He was sent flying hundreds of meters away. Bang! Li Zhongjiu fell heavily on the ground, and he was extremely shocked. After receiving this heavy blow, Li Zhongjiu also suffered quite a bit of damage. Immediately, his Heaven Void God record was activated quickly. He quickly recovered from his injuries. With the foundation of the chaotic body, he could rapidly recover from these wounds. Li Zhongjiu's strength had not reached the celestial realm. However, during this period of time, Li Zhongjiu could already feel that his body's recovery ability was incomparable to anyone in the Xiantian realm. He wanted to fight with his opponent and kill him. Of course, it was impossible. However, it wouldn't be easy for the other party to kill Li Zhongjiu. He didn't die. The green-robed man saw that Li Zhongjiu was still intact. He did not expect Li Zhongjiu to be so resilient. With a wave of his hand, the spider suddenly rushed forward. This time, with the green-robed man's personal command, Li Zhongjiu could not escape. Die! One hit, one kill. But Li Zhongjiu did not turn around to escape. He stayed where he was, facing his opponent who was rushing over. And he also had a formation in his hands. Immediately, he could feel that there was an obscure wave of energy coming from the surroundings. Seeing that Li Zhongjiu finally took the initiative to attack, the green-robed man's eyes flashed with surprise. After all, Li Zongjie was still able to fight back under his attack. Around his body, an extremely strange power instantly condensed. When this power attacked, the green-robed man was also shocked. Suddenly, as if he had heard something, the expression on his face instantly changed. Not good. In the next second, he felt an extremely terrifying power condensing. By the time the green-robed man reacted, it was already a little too late. Mountain Sea Mind Concentrating Mantra. Li Zongjie used the curse technique taught by the Tombstone Spirit. Instantly, a powerful pressure was released from the area within a radius of 10 miles. It seemed to have directly condensed into the power of the mountains and seas, which instantly blasted towards the green-robed man below. The power that appeared in an instant shocked the green-robed man. Even if he himself had the strength of a celestial realm being, under the power of a powerful curse, he still found it difficult to move. Boom! Earth-shattering sounds of destruction could be heard. The green-robed man was directly blasted into the ground. It was unknown how deep the ground was, but the giant spider's body had long been shattered. The green-robed man was trapped under the Mountain Sea Mind Concentrating Mantra. Li Zongjie also felt that his strength was exhausted. It seemed that in the move just now, he had also used up all his strength, but it was a different experience. When he used the Mountain Sea Mind Concentrating Mantra just now, he also clearly felt that this power directly poured into Li Zongjie's body. It seemed that this powerful move was released by the power of the mountains and seas around him. When he felt his own power condensing together, the power that erupted in an instant was really terrifying. And compared to when he used this move on the Shungwu continent, that kind of power and explosion, the feeling was also a lot stronger. Li Zongjie had long expected this. Now that he used it, Li Zongjie did indeed feel the power of the curse. Today, this guy could be considered to have been crippled. The latter was more or less crippled on the spot. But the recovery ability of the celestial realm was not simple. Li Zongjie immediately left the place at this moment. This move was also precisely because the latter was full of confidence when he used it. That was why he defeated him in one fell swoop. He used a little tactic, and the sneak attack was successful. If this guy was really vigilant, it would not be easy for Li Zongjie to defeat him. Now was a good opportunity to escape. He directly headed towards the Crimson Soul City. At least in the Crimson Soul City, he would not be easily killed. Everything had its rules. It would be relatively safer. However, this exchange had already let Li Zongjie know that even if this guy was in the celestial realm, he was not invincible. There were still flaws. As long as there were flaws, it would not be a problem. He was not an invincible existence. The last time he used the Mountain Sea Mind Concentrating Mantra, Li Zongjie was almost in a weak state for a long time. However, this time around, he had only consumed a single elixir and had almost recovered. This had something to do with the cultivation of the Heavenly Void Divine Image record. In addition, it was because of his breakthrough. Last time, he was a level 6 and 8. And this time, he was a level 8 and 8. There was a difference of 2 levels, and such a big difference in effect was also very obvious. Li Zongjie headed towards the Crimson Soul City. Through communication with Wuxia, he knew that at least Aotion and the unparalleled sword had returned to the city. It was fine as long as they were safe. Not long after, Li Zongjie also returned to the Crimson Soul City. There were not many accidents and dangers along the way. He was a level 8 and 8, and in fact in this Crimson Soul City, he was not considered weak. Experts in the celestial realm basically had their own things to do, and their own pursuits. They did not walk around to do missions every day. Instead, they were busy with their own cultivation. Generally, those who did this mission were innate and Hotion level existences. However, one should not forget that there were actually many Hotion level cultivators, and they made up the majority of the population. Like Li Zongjie, there were few innate level cultivators in the beginning. Li Zongjie left. Spiritual Master 5 Poisons in a green robe also directly lifted the huge rock on his body. Just now, this move directly blasted him into the hole that was hundreds of meters deep. It was not easy for him to struggle out. His body was also sore. However, he didn't suffer any serious injuries. Most of the attacks were blocked by his green robe. Interesting, he even knows curse techniques. This curse technique seems to be the inheritance of the great Emperor Xiantian. Looks like another person chosen by the great Emperor Xiantian. I didn't expect that such a small probability would be met by me, ha ha ha. Spiritual Master 5 Poison's eyes flashed. Anyone who was chosen by the great Emperor Xiantian? In their eyes, he was basically the same as the fiendish demon that had emerged from the underground palace with the treasure. It was a person who carried a treasure. They believed that this person must have a lot of secrets on him. Just this curse technique of the great Emperor Xiantian was a very powerful thing. If they could get this thing, it would be a very big harvest. It looked like the will of the great Emperor Xiantian had not dissipated. He was indeed the great Emperor Xiantian. After going through such a disaster, he could still persevere. It was really surprising. At least it surprised Spiritual Master 5 Poisons. It was not difficult to find this guy. Spiritual Master 5 Poison's original target was Aotian. Since he did not kill Aotian, he would more or less leave something on Aotian's body. He would not just watch Aotian disappear like last time. So he had already left a mark on Aotian's body. Spiritual Master 5 Poisons immediately recovered some strength. There were a few wandering demons that wanted to sneak attack him, but they were easily dealt with by Spiritual Master 5 Poisons. Red Soul City? Let's see where you can escape to. Chapter 1642. Li Zhongjiu quickly returned to the Scarlet Soul City. He returned to the small house on the mountain. Hong Long was taking care of the severely injured Aotian. At this moment, Aotian was still in his true form. When Unparalleled Sword saw Li Zhongjiu return, it immediately appeared beside Li Zhongjiu and acted extremely intimate. Finally, I can wake you up. Li Zhongjiu grabbed Unparalleled Sword in his hand. Although the process took a lot of time, he finally had a true old friend by his side. To Li Zhongjiu, this was something to be happy about. How's his condition? Li Zhongjiu asked. Not too good. Although I don't know how to heal injuries, he seems to be severely injured. Hong Long said. Li Zhongjiu also went to check on Aotian's condition. It was indeed very bad. Not only was he severely injured, but he was also placed with an energy seal. This energy seal also prevented the latter's body from recovering. Hence, he was now in a coma. Moreover, his injuries could not heal by themselves. No, according to that guy's methods, he must have left something behind. Li Zhongjiu's mental strength quickly scanned Aotian's body. When this power surged out, Li Zhongjiu was able to get a clear picture of Aotian's condition. He really left a tracking mark. Li Zhongjiu directly pulled out one of Aotian's scales. Aotian released a wave of energy and fixed it on the scale. After pulling out the scale, Li Zhongjiu also picked up a stone from the ground. Then he stuck the scale on the stone. Using all his strength, he threw it far away. Boom! The stone disappeared into the sky in the blink of an eye. No one could see it clearly anymore. Li Zhongjiu had already used this method many times. There was nothing new about it at all. He directly threw the thing away. Let this fellow search according to the scale. The elemental energy lock had directly sealed Aotian's elemental energy. Even Li Zhongjiu had no way of unlocking it. At least for the time being, there was nothing he could do. Therefore, he could only rely on external help to heal the latter's injuries. Otherwise, Aotian would have a hard time recovering. Another option was to use soul beans. However, if one wanted to use soul beans to heal, one would need a large amount of soul beans. However, even Li Zhongjiu didn't have that many soul beans. Therefore, they could only stabilize the latter's injuries here for the time being. At least his life was saved. He wanted to unlock this elemental energy lock. There were two methods. The first was to kill the green-robed man. Then, the elemental energy lock that he had set up would automatically disappear. The second was to raise Li Zhongjiu's strength to the Sky Man realm. Then he could easily unlock the elemental energy lock. Of course, he could also find other Sky Man realm experts to help. However, experts of this level wouldn't easily do it. Moreover, Li Zhongjiu didn't think of asking others for help for such a small matter. Most importantly, Li Zongjio didn't know any Sky Man Realm experts. However, if he wanted to talk about Sky Man Realm experts, there was one in this small mountain residence. It was the formation expert who purposely fought with Li Zongjio to test him. However, Li Zongjio didn't care about the latter at that time. Go and investigate this green-robed man. He will definitely come to Crimson Soul City. Find out his identity, Li Zongjio said. At this time, the benefits of having a gang were directly reflected. Li Zongjio could easily mobilize hundreds of people to do things for him. If the green-robed man came to Crimson Soul City, he would be able to find out at the first moment. At the same time, he could also use resources to investigate the identity of the green-robed man. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles. If there was a group of Sky Man Realm experts behind this guy, Li Zongjio would choose to hold back for the time being. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome for the current Li Zongjio if he stirred up a hornet's nest. Okay. Hong Long also set off directly. What will come will come. I have to make some preparations, Li Zongjio thought in his heart. He also brought a lot of top-grade primordial stones from Xingwu continent. It was just right to use these top-grade primordial stones to set up the formation. As long as there were enough ants, they could even kill an elephant. However, this also required a method. It wasn't as if you had a large number of ants and just rushed up. Moreover, it also depended on the location. It wouldn't work in the water either. The elephant would shake you off in minutes. The terrain was extremely important. Li Zongjio needed to prepare the terrain to his advantage. Now Li Zongjio's cultivation had reached innate level 8, which was hundreds of times stronger than when he was in Xingwu continent. The current Li Zongjio could easily kill him in Xingwu continent without the slightest hesitation. The difference between before and after was also quite big. Therefore, with Li Zongjio's current cultivation to set up a formation, although he didn't dare to say that he could directly kill people, it could still serve as a buffer. It was still very good. Black Tortoise Heavenly Calamity Formation. This was the most powerful formation in Li Zongjio's hands. Immediately, Li Zongjio also began to carve the formation patterns in his small courtyard. In the past, it required 4 people to set up this formation, but now Li Zongjio alone was enough. This was the difference in strength. The huge difference made Li Zongjio extremely strong. It took a full 3 days to set up the formation. That 5 Poisons Taoist master had discovered the mark he had left behind in a mountain stream. And on the spot, he was extremely furious. He knew that the other party was definitely hiding in the Crimson Spirit City, and the most dangerous place was also the safest place. A person with a dragon, where could they hide? It must be very easy to find them. With his Yuan Qi lock, the other party couldn't transform at all. Spiritual Master 5 Poisons was still very confident about this. Spiritual Master 5 Poisons? When the figure appeared in the Red Soul City, Hong Long also received the news from the Qing gang. But at this time, Hong Long was taken away by someone. It was Commander Misher's people. Hong Long's wantonly mobilization of people naturally attracted the attention of Commander Misher. The 5 people of the elite team in the city witnessed all this. At the same time, they quickly contacted Li Zongjio and reported Hong Long's matter. This made Li Zongjio frown. Commander Misher? Li Zongjio could guess that the other party captured Hong Long in order to find him. This Commander Misher should be the backer that the Qing gang's leader mentioned before. Misfortunes never come singly. Li Zongjio also wanted to cultivate quietly, improve his strength as soon as possible, and go home earlier. But there were so many people who wanted to force him, Evil Lord, to take action. The evil dominator finally wanted to keep a low profile. Did they have to force him to take action in this great world? Then, let's properly experience the might of the evil lord. Chapter 1643. The Black Tortoise Heavenly Tribulation Formation had been completed. Although there were many enemies, but Li Zongjio was not in a hurry. He was not worried about what these people could do to him. It was only the capture of Hong Long. For Li Zongjio, this was not an urgent matter. Even if Hong Long died, Li Zongjio would still be merciful and avenge Hong Long. Moreover, Honglong himself would not die so easily. The great formation has been completed. Li Zongjio's eyes flashed with light. The decisive battle with Spiritual Master Five Poisons would begin at this moment. But the last time he had exchanged blows with the latter, he had used a curse technique. Presumably, this would be a truly hard battle. To kill Spiritual Master Five Poisons, it would definitely not be an easy task. But who asked Spiritual Master Five Poisons to block his path? Li Zongjio let people leak out the news. Of course, it was also leaked extremely vaguely. Very quickly, Spiritual Master Five Poisons had already received the news. There was someone who had brought an injured poison dragon to this small mountain residence. The small mountain residence, after Spiritual Master Five Poisons received the news, he immediately charged towards the small mountain residence. A tyrannical aura enveloped the small mountain residence. It just so happened that the two girls in the purple bamboo forest were not at home today. Even Spiritual Master Five Poisons did not dare to casually make a move in the Red Spirit City. Otherwise, the city guards would be able to assassinate him at any time. Although he could escape, but it would be rather inconvenient in the future. Therefore, he still needed to slightly conceal his movements. He directly threw out several spatial mirror pearls. Instantly, it covered the entire small mountain residence. Li Zongjio abruptly raised his head. It had only been half an hour since the news was released, and the other party had already rushed over. They were really in a hurry. Boom! A tyrannical aura enveloped him. Very quickly, they discovered the location of Li Zongjio. After all, they had exchanged blows with him before. Therefore, at such a close distance, they were able to easily find Li Zongjio. Brat, it's really unfortunate that I found you. Only death awaits you. Taoist Master Five Poisons directly slapped downwards with his palm. Boom! The domineering palm energy instantly fell on the small courtyard, where Li Zongjio was. Buzz! A powerful vibrating force spread out. It seemed to have blocked all of the opponent's attacks. Within Taoist Five Poisons' eyes was a trace of surprise. He looked up at the sky. A surge of power surged out. It directly trapped him within. Array formation? Only children play with formations. When Spiritual Master Five Poisons saw this, he couldn't help but sneer. It seemed like Li Zongjio was just an ordinary person. However, such a person had actually been recognized by the mysterious Sky Emperor Lord. He had come to the Great Realm for the sake of imparting curse techniques. Therefore, he wanted to see what kind of treasure Li Zongjio had on him. Every moment, there would be new people coming to this macro world, but very few of them could survive. And this macro world was used as a training ground. Naturally, it had to be given to some heavenly monarch-level experts who were truly training. Similar to Li Zongjio, it was called a prize. The mysterious Sky Emperor had tens of millions of incarnations. These tens of millions of incarnations would head to the corners of countless worlds to search for people with special talents, or people with special talents. These people would have some redeeming qualities on them, and were very important to them. Taoist Master Five Poisons very obviously did not think that his luck would be so good to find such a prize. Li Zongjio was completely unaware that he had already become the prey in the opponent's eyes. But unfortunately, in such a situation, it was not certain who would be the one to hunt who. Taoist Master Five Poisons did not dare to be careless. After all, he had suffered at the hands of Li Zongjio. If they continued to fight, perhaps this guy would have many more problems. But when he saw that Li Zongjio wanted to rely on the formation to contend against him, he immediately laughed out loud. This Li Zongjio was underestimating him. Taoist Master Five Poisons. He was simply not putting him in his eyes. This kind of trashy formation, I only need a finger. Taoist Master Five Poisons directly pointed out with a finger. Boom! Five Poisons finger. The power of this finger directly condensed the existence of thousands of terrifying poisons. When this power was displayed, Li Zongjio's black tortoise heavenly tribulation formation was immediately damaged. But at this moment, the power of the black tortoise also instantly erupted, rushing towards the person in front of him. Boom! A powerful force instantly covered the collision. The power of the black tortoise and the opponent's power of the Five Poisons collided. Black Dragon Hammer. Li Zongjio directly activated the Black Dragon Hammer. Immediately, a terrifying power instantly spread out. His figure leapt, taking the initiative to attack Taoist Master 5 Poisons. Last time, when he fought with Taoist Master 5 Poisons, he already knew that in reality, this guy's strength could not be considered very strong. However, the poison technique that the latter had mastered was extremely powerful. But Li Zongjio had a kind of ability that was impenetrable by poison. At least he was able to withstand this attack. He had a certain degree of resistance against poison. Therefore, when fighting Taoist Master 5 Poisons, he had a certain advantage. Li Zongjio also directly rushed up, releasing the Black Dragon Hammer in his hand. Immediately, a terrifying power appeared, smashing towards Taoist Master 5 Poisons. And Taoist Master 5 Poisons himself also released a poisonous miasma. It blocked Li Zongjio outside of the poisonous miasma, but Li Zongjio's Black Dragon Hammer also directly smashed towards it. Immediately, this terrifying power exploded out. But Taoist Master 5 Poisons himself was also extremely shocked, because the Black Dragon Hammer in Li Zongjio's hand was also extremely powerful. Every strike of the hammer seemed to directly strike the heart. Clearly, Li Zongjio's strength was extremely strong. Very quickly, Taoist Master 5 Poisons also blasted Li Zongjio away. Another 5 Poisons finger descended, pointing towards Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio also planned to forcibly resist this finger, using the chaotic body to resist the 5 Poisons finger. Seeing Li Zongjio actually dare to use his own body to resist his 5 Poisons finger, Taoist Master 5 Poisons snorted disdainfully. Idiot! But when Li Zongjio received the 5 Poisons finger, although his face changed, poison chi surged within his body. This surging poison instantly exploded within Li Zongjio's body. Not good. Li Zongjio let out a low roar. This was also Li Zongjio's gamble. If he could withstand this 5 Poisons finger, then the Taoist Master 5 Poisons in front of him would not be able to pose any threat to Li Zongjio. The chaotic chi instantly surged out, at the same time beginning to repair Li Zongjio's body. Soon, the chaotic force absorbed all of the 5 poisons from the opponent. You actually have the chaotic body. Chapter 1644. The chaotic body. Even in a large world, it was an extremely precious cultivation body. If he could obtain the power of the chaotic body, why would he need to work so hard to cultivate the 5 poison body? Immediately, Taoist 5 Poisons' eyes lit up. He never thought that he would have such a great opportunity. The heavens really treated him well. I'll be taking your chaotic body, said Jianchen. Li Zongjio could not help but sneer. You want my chaotic body? Let's see if you have the strength to do so. Originally, Li Zongjio did not have a very accurate estimate of the chaotic force in his body. However, looking at it now, the thing in his body should be extremely powerful. Otherwise, the other party, a celestial being, would not stare at Li Zongjio in such a way. Moreover, this thing had already made him lose his mind. Although on the surface, he seemed to be immersed in a state of calmness, in reality, he had already sunk into a state of extreme desire. Li Zongjio poured his chaotic force into the Black Dragon Hammer. I really don't care about your 5 poison body. Is this all you've got? Then I'm afraid you won't be able to walk out today. Li Zongjio said indifferently. A trace of coldness flashed through his eyes. You're overestimating yourself. In the next moment, a venomous snake suddenly surged out from Taoist 5 Poisons' body. The snake's spirit coiled towards the Black Tortoise Formation. After all, the Black Tortoise Formation was extremely powerful. If he did not block it carefully, he might really be hit by it. If that happened, he would completely lose the initiative. Boom! The snake's spirit coiled around the Black Tortoise Formation. At that moment, poison instantly covered Taoist 5 Poisons' entire body. His entire body was filled with poison. It was as if he had turned into a poisonous person. Extremely terrifying power surged out from the surroundings. It was as if the surrounding air had been poisoned to death. Such a terrifying change occurred in the surroundings. At the same time, the range of this poisonous gas was also spreading out bit by bit. It gradually spread towards Li Zongjio's direction. At this moment, Li Zongjie was also quietly operating the formation. Curse. Mountain Sea Mind Focus Mantra. When Li Zongjie once again summoned the extremely terrifying Mountain and Sea Mind concentrating spell, the other party instantly realized it. Li Zongjie was going to play the same old trick again. But unfortunately, he Daoist 5 Poisons was not an idiot. He had been fooled twice by the same trick. They saw that Daoist 5 Poisons had actually broken through the Black Tortoise Heavenly Tribulation formation. His figure quickly appeared in midair. Li Zongjie's curse technique was only able to break through a layer of the opponent's poison technique. This caused the latter's poison arts to be greatly damaged. However, unlike the last time, he didn't suffer any serious injuries. Last time, it was because of Li Zongjie's curse that he couldn't get up for a long time. For Daoist 5 Poisons, that was an extremely dangerous situation. Li Zongjie raised his head to look at the figure in midair, a hint of mockery appearing in his eyes. It was as if he was saying, "You've finally fallen into my trap." One could immediately see that Daoist 5 Poison's expression changed slightly. The surrounding energy seemed to have a strange feeling. Instantly, Daoist 5 Poisons frowned. 8 Gates Heavenly Mystery Formation Reverse. Absorb. Li Zongjie formed hand seals with his hands, activating the formation in front of him. Daoist 5 Poisons also didn't expect that Li Zongjie would hide another huge formation under the formation. Immediately, he himself was also shocked. However, by the time he reacted, it was already too late. The power of Li Zongjie's formation within the formation was also relatively strong. It was even more terrifying than the Black Tortoise Heavenly Tribulation formation. When the formation reversed, the 8 Gates Heavenly Mystery Formation was originally a formation that provided energy for the center of the formation. In the blink of an eye, the formation became something that was used to release power. And the source of this energy was Daoist 5 Poisons. The formation seemed to have completely bound Daoist 5 Poisons, controlling the latter's body. At the same time, a terrifying suction force instantly absorbed the energy within Daoist 5 Poison's body. It was absorbed, swallowed, and released far away. What? Daoist 5 Poisons also hurriedly operated his own cultivation technique, wanting to resist the formation. However, it was a pity that the person who set up the formation wasn't Li Zongjie, but this mysterious expert of the heaven realm. Although the technique of the formation wasn't much, the foundation was extremely solid. Li Zongjie also forcefully modified the 8 Gates Heavenly Mystery Formation, turning it into a weapon in his hands, turning it into a killing formation. Daoist 5 Poisons absolutely didn't expect that Li Zongjie would be able to mobilize such a powerful energy. It was truly unexpected. Black Dragon Hammer. Li Zongjie absolutely couldn't give his opponent any chance to breathe. Immediately, the power of primal chaos poured into the Black Dragon Hammer. His figure quickly rushed towards Daoist 5 Poisons. Daoist 5 Poisons opened his mouth, and a poisonous fog sprayed towards Li Zongjie. This was the 5 Poisons chi that he had refined himself. Relying on this mouthful of 5 Poisons chi, almost no one dared to casually approach him. However, Li Zongjie wanted to complete this sure kill attack. Towards this 5 Poisons chi, he absolutely couldn't avoid it. Immediately, Li Zongjie's figure also directly rushed towards the 5 Poisons chi. Boom! The instant Li Zongjie rushed up, he was also covered by the poisonous fog that filled the sky. In just an instant, Li Zongjie also felt an extremely terrifying devouring force. This poisonous fog was currently continuously devouring Li Zongjie's life. Therefore, Li Zongjie had no choice but to hold his breath. It was as if he had passed through this extremely terrifying poisonous fog desert. Li Zongjie also carried the hammer in his hand. Closing his eyes, he viciously smashed the hammer onto Daoist 5 Poison's head. Bang! Daoist 5 Poison's head instantly buzzed. In just an instant, it was already enough to make Daoist 5 Poisons choke. In just an instant, the power of the surrounding formation had already instantly trapped the latter. At the same time, it unceasingly extracted his power. It scattered towards the sky. Boom! Li Zongjie once again swung the hammer, directly smashing the latter's body. In an instant, this half of the body was also shattered. After all, the destructive power of primal chaos was extremely terrifying. It didn't give the latter any time to think, and directly shattered his body. Dao's 5 poisons was heavily injured. However, this half of his body was smashed to pieces. However, it didn't turn into a soul being. You actually dared to injure me. Do you know who I am? Dao's 5 poisons half-open mouth let out a furious roar. He had to let Li Zhongjiu clearly understand the enemy he was currently facing. This was to achieve the goal of deterrence. As for Li Zhongjiu, his eyes were filled with disdain. You're only a mere clone. You dare to be impudent in front of me. Wait till your true body comes, then talk to me. After saying this, Li Zhongjiu lifted the black dragon hammer in his hand, directly summoning terrifying lightning that instantly engulfed Dao's 5 poisons body. Chapter 1645. Spiritual Master 5 Poisons body instantly shattered into pieces. The lightning directly engulfed Spiritual Master 5 Poisons body. A large amount of energy quickly poured into Li Zhongjiu's mind-splitting ring, killing a sky-human realm expert. Li Zhongjiu did not expect that he would actually succeed. Looking at it now, his chaotic body was basically a true treasure. Although he had been heavily injured earlier, and the 5 poisons had basically completely corroded Li Zhongjiu's body, he was still able to hold on. But after activating the Heavenly Void Divine Form record, Li Zhongjiu's injured body was rapidly recovering. Boom! Li Zhongjiu stabilized his injuries. If not for my evil god body, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to hit with this hammer. Li Zhongjiu sighed in his heart. Although Li Zhongjiu's body contained the terrifying power of chaos, but in reality, Li Zhongjiu's body was the evil god body, which was even stronger than the power of chaos. He still had the evil soul eye that he had not had the time to use. Li Zhongjiu lay on the ground, activating the Heavenly Void Divine Form record to recover his injuries. But at this moment, Aotion suddenly rushed out of the courtyard with a boom. In the black fog left behind by Spiritual Master 5 Poison, there was suddenly a wisp of smoke that wanted to take advantage of this gap to escape into the distance. Li Zhongjiu had not discovered that this 5 Poisons Taoist master had left behind something within the black fog. But Li Zhongjiu did not have the strength to continue chasing. He saw Aotion bite the black poisonous gas into his mouth. The poisonous gas turned into a pearl, which was finally bitten by Aotion and swallowed into his mouth. Boom! Aotion had expended a lot of energy to rush out. After eating the 5 poison pearl, his body landed on the ground with a boom. He forced himself to move his body. Then, they began to laugh at the 5 poison pearl. After Taoist Master 5 Poisons died, he didn't turn into a soul being. This meant that he was different from other people, and should be someone from outside this great world. It was the incarnation of a heaven monarch realm expert. In this great world, he came here specifically to train and strengthen his incarnation, but he did not expect to be killed by Li Zhongjiu. Thus, the other party didn't turn into a soul being. After a full hour, Li Zhongjiu finally regained some mobility. Storage ring? What's this? I haven't seen it in a long time. When Li Zhongjiu saw the storage rings on the ground, he couldn't help but feel nostalgic. When Li Zhongjiu was in the Shengwu continent, he was very good at killing people and taking their storage rings. But in this great world, however, due to various restrictions, these people would not leave behind a storage ring after death. Only if you were willing to hand over the storage ring would you be able to obtain it. Otherwise, there was no way to obtain it. After you died, apart from your clothes, as long as it had your imprint, it would disappear completely. The soul would turn into a soul being. It would be taken by someone else. Li Zhongjiu didn't have time to investigate the contents of the ring before he felt a powerful energy surge out from the surroundings. It broke the mirror image space that Taoist Master 5 Poisons had released. Then, a woman in green landed in Li Zhongjiu's courtyard. Looking at the surrounding environment, it was obvious that this place had been attacked. This small mountain residence was her territory, right? She opened the door to do business. Since there were tenants here, she naturally had to ensure the safety of the tenants. However, It was obvious that this place had been attacked. Someone attacked you? The woman in green looked at Li Zongjio in front of her. Meanwhile, Li Zongjio's eyes were filled with vigilance as he looked at the other party. Another expert had arrived. Judging by the methods used by the woman in green, her strength was not to be underestimated. She was definitely another heaven-tier expert. I'm the owner of this small mountain residence. You can call me Lingyu. Lingyu saw Li Zongjio's eyes full of vigilance and said, indicating that the latter need not be afraid. A heaven realm enemy has been dealt with. Li Zongjio said indifferently. His strength could be considered to have recovered a bit, but if he had to fight with a heaven realm expert, he would definitely not be able to fight. Moreover, if another one came, he might not be able to withstand it. This time, it was only Taoist Master 5 Poisons who was unlucky. The poison that he was most proficient in had a weaker effect on Li Zongjio. Therefore, Li Zongjio had the opportunity to directly attack. Dealt with, the meaning was very obvious. Only after killing the other party would it be truly dealt with. You're an innate, but you can actually deal with a heaven realm expert? Lingyu was also surprised, because she knew Li Zongjio's strength. When Lingyu sensed the fluctuations in the surroundings, her eyes were also filled with shock. You actually rewrote my array formation? You reversed my 8 gates heavenly mystery formation. Lingyu was naturally surprised. This level of modification was no joke. Li Zongjio's first attack was only to fix some loopholes that he found. However, to completely reverse this formation, one must understand the existence of this power, the various formation eyes of the 8 gates heavenly mystery formation. Under the situation of not having a formation map, to be able to do this just by seeing such a formation, one must be a very powerful genius. Only then could one reverse the formation. This was a very clever method. Don't worry, I'll change your formation, Li Zongjio said. You're very talented. If you have someone to guide you, you'll improve even faster. I wonder if you're willing to join. Lingyu's heart was also moved. She wanted to invite Li Zongjio to join her sect, but Li Zongjio shook his head. Sorry, I already have a better place to go. I still have other things to do. Li Zongjio refused. According to Lingyu's temper, if it wasn't for the fact that he was so talented, she wouldn't even bother with him. Now that she was rejected, Lingyu was even more unhappy. She even felt ashamed and angry. Since he didn't agree, then forget it. The Immortal Spirit Valley didn't have to worry about people joining. Since Li Zongjio didn't know how to appreciate favors and wasted this opportunity, then it could only be considered Li Zongjio's bad luck. If that's the case, I won't disturb you anymore. This time, it's my fault for not taking care of you. I'll waive a year's worth of room fees for you. After speaking, Lingyu left. After all, Li Zongjio was her customer. Now that a customer had been ambushed in her store, the mountain residence itself had to bear the responsibility. Otherwise, their reputation wouldn't be too good if word got out. Li Zongjio was naturally happy. After a year, how many soul beans would that be? It had to be said that these people were really generous. They gave out tens of thousands of soul beans in one go. After Lingyu left, Li Zongjio opened the storage ring left behind by Taoist 5 Poisons. Chapter 1646. Someone like Taoist 5 Poisons definitely had a great background. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so arrogant as to make a move in someone else's small mountain residence. To be able to open an inn, one had to have the protection of a heaven realm expert. However, they definitely wouldn't give anyone the chance to kill their way in. After all, the purpose of opening an inn was to create a safe reputation. Li Zongjio opened the latter's storage ring. He was immediately stunned by Taoist 5 Poisons collection. A total of 200,000 soul beans. How many people did this guy kill? Or was it that things like soul beans were actually worthless in front of the incarnations of true monarchs? That was why such a large batch had suddenly appeared. This truly caused Li Zongjio to be incomparably shocked and astonished. A collection of 200,000 soul beans. In an instant, it caused Li Zongjio to be in a state of sudden wealth. Apart from that, there was also a set of secret cultivation manuals. Just by looking at its appearance, One could tell that its level wasn't low. 5 Poisons Exterminating God Sutra. Li Zhongjiu casually flipped through it. This sort of thing wasn't very useful to him. So he casually tossed the 5 Poisons Exterminating God Sutra to Ao Tian. Ao Tian was currently refining Taoist 5 Poisons Pearl. This 5 Poisons Pearl was the power that Taoist 5 Poisons had cultivated his entire life. Originally, if this 5 Poisons Pearl had been summoned back by its original owner, there would have been a chance to recover this power. Who knew that Ao Tian would bite down on it? This was something that Li Zhongjiu hadn't expected. His experience of killing a Heaven Realm expert was only this one time. Next time, he definitely wouldn't let the opponent's power escape. These were all the essence of power. Collecting them and absorbing them was also a good thing. At the very least, the absorption effects would far surpass the effects of soul beans. Li Zhongjiu prepared to make a trip to the transaction hall to sell this 5 Poisons Exterminating God Sutra. This item wasn't very useful in his hands. However, Li Zhongjiu suddenly thought of something. If he wanted to maintain a gang, he would have to add something to the gang as a reward. Only in this way would he be able to increase the enthusiasm of the gang. However, Li Zhongjiu couldn't figure out what he needed these people to do in order to reward them. Keep it for now. Afterwards, Li Zhongjiu took out several treasures from the storage ring of Taoist Master 5 Poisons. For ordinary people, this was simply the king of hell, a truly poisonous item. He didn't even want to touch it. However, for Ao Tian, this was definitely an extremely nourishing item. 4 types of highly toxic substances. This guy's 5 Poison Extermination mantra also has it written. In addition to your little poison dragon's Poison Dragon Pearl. It's just enough to form this 5 poison formation? You're lucky. Since you've encountered it, I'll leave it to you. Li Zhongjiu very generously gave these 4 extremely precious poisons to Ao Tian. Originally, Taoist Master 5 Poisons wanted to refine these 5 types of highly toxic substances to form his 5 Poison Extermination mantra and use it to break through his cultivation realm. However, he didn't expect to be killed by Li Zhongjiu halfway through. Of course, Li Zhongjiu didn't leave any face for him. He killed him directly. Everything was taken advantage of by Ao Tian. Ao Tian was also wild with joy. With these things, he could continue to break through. In fact, this time, he had a chance to break through to the Heaven Realm. Right now, Ao Tian was doing his best to cultivate and refine the item in his hand. However, this required time. Therefore, Hong Long's side could only be delayed for a while. Li Zhongjiu also wanted to take this opportunity to feel the power of 100,000 soul beans. They came to the trading hall. Li Zhongjiu had also chosen carefully. Moreover, Li Zhongjiu had learned to be smarter. He directly hit his figure and bought a small tool to temporarily change his appearance. It wasn't that Li Zhongjiu was afraid of trouble. The main thing was that he had so many soul beans on him. He wasn't afraid of being stolen, but he was afraid of being remembered. These soul beans weren't a small number. Who knew how long it would take for Li Zhongjiu's gang to receive these 200,000 soul beans? Therefore, it was more practical to kill these experts and earn money quickly. High risk, high reward. This was very normal. This was the way of the world. Li Zhongjiu was also very clear. If you didn't have enough strength, then you would only end up being crippled. 100,000 soul beans. This was enough to buy many high-grade items. He browsed through many level 12 pills. Some extremely powerful immortal weapons were rejected by Li Zhongjiu one by one. These things didn't catch his eye. They didn't suit his taste. It would be best if it could increase his intrinsic strength in one go. This thing is interesting. Li Zhongjiu suddenly saw a special item described on the menu. It was stored under the category of special items. He hadn't seen it before. The reason why it was special was because very few people could choose it. At the same time, it was also because very few people could use it. A bottle of chaotic aura. When Li Zhongjiu saw this name, he couldn't shift his gaze away. He stared at the chaotic aura in front of him. Unknowingly, even his breathing became a little hurried. This thing can be sold? Li Zhongjiu didn't know where this chaotic aura came from. Even just 3 streaks of chaotic aura directly created a primordial chaos bell. The powerful ability of the primordial chaos bell was still vivid in his mind. But where did the chaotic aura come from? Li Zongjie didn't know. He didn't know the situation at all. Therefore, when Li Zongjie saw that the chaotic aura could be sold, he couldn't help but admire the mysterious Heaven Emperor. He couldn't be so awesome. The chaotic aura could restrain many things. Now that Li Zongjie had discovered the usefulness of the chaotic aura, he was naturally overjoyed. He immediately looked at the price. 98,000. Li Zongjie rolled his eyes on the spot. A tier 12 pill was only worth 20 to 30,000 soul beans. But this bottle of primal chaos aura was sold for 98,000. Who could afford it? No wonder it was placed in such an inconspicuous place. Most importantly, even if one could afford the primal chaos energy, very few would buy it. If they couldn't refine it, it would be a bottle of poison after drinking it. I'll buy it. Anyway, these soul beans were all snatched from others. At the very least, there was still a guild creation token that could be sold for a lot of money. He paid 98,000 soul beans. The shop assistant took out a small, worn-out bottle from under the cabinet. There was even a seal on it. Chapter 1647. Li Zongjie put away the bottle. Then, he left the trading hall in a low-key manner. This time, no one was following him. However, Li Zongjie also saw a few people who were also being targeted by others. Obviously, these people were also novices. They were probably going to experience what Li Zongjie had experienced. There were also many new people being born every day. There were even many puppets appearing, making it impossible to tell which ones were which ones. Anyway, there were rewards all the same. They just needed to take these rewards. Li Zongjie returned to the mountain residence. The members of the Green Gang also noticed Commander Mishir's actions and reported back some information about Commander Mishir. Since they had joined the gang, they must listen to the gang leader's orders. Otherwise, they could easily get rid of them. If the gang leader dealt with them, they would be in trouble. Therefore, without any rewards, these gang members were also willing to help you and complete some tasks. At least Hong Long was not in any danger at the moment, which made Li Zongjie relax. At the same time, Li Zongjie also asked someone to pass on a message to Commander Mishir. They would meet 3 days later for another negotiation. This way, Hong Long would at least be able to keep his life safe and sound during these 3 days. Li Zongjie knew that Hong Long would not die so easily, but he still wanted the latter to at least be at ease. At the same time, he wanted Commander Mishir to be sure that at least he would not rush in recklessly and disturb Li Zongjie's plan. 3 days was enough for Aotion to complete his evolution. At the same time, it would take at most 2 or 3 days to refine the chaotic chi in his hand. Only after refining it would he have enough strength to fight with the other party. Commander Mishir was not like Taoist Master 5 Poisons, a lone wolf. There were many experts under Commander Mishir's command. If they found something wrong, these people would definitely take action, and the scene would be very dangerous. Aotion had absorbed the 4 great poisons, and the essence of Spiritual Master 5 Poisons Poison Pearl. His strength had improved by leaps and bounds. At this moment, he was rapidly condensing his strength and breaking through. He was sprinting towards the limits of his realm. Li Zongjie opened the primal chaos aura that he had spent 98,000 soul beans to buy. It was in the formation in his courtyard. It was refining. In the entire Crimson Soul City, other than here, there was really no other place that was safer than this. Every place was filled with danger. However, the background of this small mountain residence seemed to be not small. This time, the owner of the small mountain residence was a little angry. Therefore, this period of time, at least, was absolutely safe. However, if I spend a few more soul beans to buy a piece of land and upgrade it into my sex encampment, I'll be able to guarantee my own safety. As Li Zongjie thought about it, he already had a plan in his heart. Within his own gang's encampment, Li Zongjie could kill people. Moreover, within this range, Li Zongjie was practically a god. It was strong enough to kill anyone at any time. Therefore, Li Zongjie liked this very much. If he was unhappy with someone, he could just trick them into coming to his house. Then he could settle it. All problems would be solved. However, it was extremely difficult for them to become a second-rank guild. It wasn't that easy. They needed a total of 600,000 soul beans. Even including the price of buying real estate, the amount was incalculable. They would need at least 700,000 to 800,000 soul beans to apply for a second-rank guild. To be able to establish a first-rank gang was already very difficult. To upgrade to a second-rank gang was even more difficult. Right now there were only 3 second-rank gangs in the city. One could only imagine how difficult it was to do so. Could it be that these people who came and went did not want to establish a second-rank gang? Of course not. Within the city, there were tens of small first-rank gangs. However, there were only so many second-rank gangs. Li Zongjie wanted to go and see where he could choose a good location. Taoist Master 5 Poisons was simply his gift giver, bringing him so much good fortune. In the future, when he saw Taoist Master 5 Poison's true body, he would properly thank him. He had destroyed Taoist Master 5 Poison's incarnation. Then Taoist Master 5 Poison's true body would definitely obtain Li Zongjie's identity. As for when he would take revenge on him, it was hard to say. Therefore, Li Zongjie had to be extra careful. Otherwise, if this person had a few Heaven Realm incarnations, they would directly kill him. Then he would be in trouble. After all, he did not know exactly how many incarnations the other party had. Therefore, Li Zongjie had to continuously increase his own strength. Only his own strength was the true way of the king. Everything else was also fleeting clouds. Li Zongjie, in his secret training room, opened the jar of chaotic energy in his hand. Suddenly, a terrifying chaotic energy filled the air. If the chaotic power that Li Zongjie had discovered in the primordial chaos bell was like a small stream, then what about the primordial chaos bell? Then the chaotic energy that appeared in front of him was like a vast ocean. Its strength was millions, tens of millions of times stronger than before. Such a difference in strength also made Li Zongjie feel it very strongly. It was as if it was not him absorbing this chaotic energy, but this chaotic energy was absorbing him. Oh no, I'm going to be devoured by this chaotic energy. In the next moment, Li Zongjie felt an enormous suction force coming from this chaotic energy, directly sucking him in. Instantly, Li Zongjie felt as if his soul was being absorbed by the chaotic energy. He came to a place of chaos. The things that he had cultivated before were actually blasted into pieces in an instant. It was as if the power that he had cultivated for many years was penetrated and destroyed by the chaotic energy at this moment. Everything returned to chaos. Li Zongjie could feel an endless amount of chaotic energy penetrating through his body. All kinds of power that had accumulated in his body. Omnidirectional hell technique. Mental power. Flame power. They were all directly blasted into pieces. Therefore, his own power was also destroyed in an instant. At the end of the destruction, Li Zongjie's body was only left with a trace of chaotic energy. There were still remnants on his body. It was also this chaotic energy that protected Li Zongjie. Otherwise, Li Zongjie would have been directly turned into chaos by this chaotic energy. Everything would disappear as well. It was precisely because this chaotic energy was so dangerous that it was listed in the special 5th grade. Anyone who knew how powerful this chaotic energy was would not take the initiative to come into contact with it. However, the chaotic energy itself was also quite precious. Therefore, the price was also very high. Li Zongjie's last bit of primal chaos force protected his origin source as it drifted in the boundless primal chaos chi. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.